So I'm more worried I was going to hurt your cigar.
All right, gents.
Yeah.
Here
so
we are.
Remember when you would wear a pair of jeans back in the day, and when you would wear them for a little while, like you wear knees into them, like you'd all of a sudden like see where your knees were.
Yeah.
That was horrible. Jeans don't do that anymore.
Well,
because jeans have a stretchy material to them, so they don't wear in.
Maybe it's because you're not sliding
around on your knees all the time.
So I actually think when you're a kid,
you're not a kid.
When you're a kid, you do like my boys will enter rooms by sliding in on the wood floor,
as they should,
all the time.
They should, on their knees though, huh? I still do it on my socks.
Sometimes needs.
I
thought you were going to say side because sometimes they do the side slide, and I was like, you'd still do a side slide?
Joe would never get.
I sprint downstairs in my house. You know the bathroom's down the long hallway down to the left. I get a running start and I slide to the bathroom as much as possible.
I still slide on my socks.
I like that he adjusted from sprint. To running.
You know what I used to do in my socks when we used to live in a 2-story was I would start at the top. And where you don't take the steps, but you slide down
with your feet. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the best.
That is so much fun.
That's
still.
Great. That's great.
I still have to do hands on the rail though.
Oh, me too.
I don't trust myself.
I don't know if my feet are big enough to
do that. Well, I was going to say, Ryan's feet cover 3 stairs.
They're like
the difference.
they're like skis.
It's skis.
Yeah.
It's not the
same. That's actually one of the funny things. Going to London, I trip all the time because their steps are like 2 inches shorter.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, it's like in walking down, because upstairs is fine. You're on your toes. Walking downstairs in London, no joke, is scary for me.
It's
like miss a step?
It's scary for me too.
Dude,
and I don't have his big feet.
I will slip.
It is whoa. You have to like
terrifying.
almost tell yourself to kick your heels back onto the stairs.
I will go sideways a lot. And I'm not kidding. I'll put my feet sideways.
They're
shorter.
They're
shallower.
Yeah, they're shallower.
They're shallower.
Oh.
You know what's funny is when I was in Wyoming this previous couple months ago, I noticed they don't have the same regulations that we have. The stairs were all different and like some were different heights, some were different widths. I'm like, oh,
that's just poor construction.
Those regulations are not the same here.
So let's break into our new cigar, guys.
Yeah, let's talk about this cigar.
So this is a Sancho Panza, and I had this for the first time the other day, and I liked it so much I got one for all the guys because I wanted us all to try it. You got it.
Thanks, man.
In case this label wasn't big enough, they put a paper on it.
And another label.
And then a massive
I was
label
gonna say,
on
look
the
at how
actual
huge
cigar.
the other cigar. Yeah, the other label is. I will say I don't know why I like the paper, the thin paper.
Makes me feel like I'm eating saltwater taffy.
It does. Oh my gosh, that is the whole cigar. That is They just put another one of those on there.
What would you say if I just smoked it with this thing on it?
You're supposed to.
I'd say
that's what you're supposed to do.
That's Joe.
Yeah. That's Joe.
It's funny is I wouldn't be able to tell which. And
look at the size of that label, dude.
Who was it that smoked the leaf wrap cigar? Was that you that smoked the leaf wrap cigar in the leaf?
That was me. Yeah. Because I didn't know.
Yeah. Didn't know.
I've seen people smoke it with the spills on.
You know, yeah.
What's
that's
the spills?
The,
I don't know what that is.
The cedar paper.
Cedar.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That seems obvious to me.
I've been at the shop and I'd be like, something burning?
You know
which
why
is funny
that-
to say in a cigar
Yeah,
shop,
right.
but it's like, oh, this guy is straight up smoking the
This
whole
guy.
wood.
You know why that cedar's on there?
Why?
You're supposed to light it with that.
Oh,
You light
yes.
it with it.
I did hear that.
I've tried that. It doesn't do
That's
very
the same
No.
reason people do the cedar
You have to
matches,
break it up.
right?
Yeah, the
They'll
cedar
do
matches.
cedar matches.
Yeah.
But I love it because I'm like,
Oh, this is graceful.
they
I
make
gotta-
lighters.
Look at that. Yeah.
I slid.
It's like a
I
horror movie.
I just slid mine off.
It's got like a coffin shape. That's actually really cool. Sancho Panza is the sponsor of today's podcast.
This looks like an old
I mean,
cartridges.
they don't know it,
These
but-
look like Civil War cartridges.
Call us Sanch.
I have so many leftovers from this thing already. We haven't even gotten to the
I
cigar
know.
yet.
I got a box of cigars for my birthday that
oh,
had
wow.
a,
Yeah, you have to take it off.
a sheet of cedar in the box. Like
Oh, wow.
the thin.
Oh, yeah.
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 Josh's comment, can I have that cutter, please? Josh's comment reminded me of, he's like, I know it's funny to say something was happening in a cigar shop and somebody was smoking. It always makes me think of going to L.A. and we're with Dave Hopper, your brother-in-law.
Oh, my gosh.
And his cigar is canoeing to the point of everybody in the shop is wanting to talk to him about it. It's running, actually.
Yeah,
so
it's
he's
a
got
run.
it's about this far down and it's half burnt on the top.
Oh, it's horrible.
And it's like to the
How
point where
do
the
you
guy
not-
working there's like, hey.
It was uncomfortable.
Hey,
Like,
it was
How do you not
uncomfortable.
notice that?
multiple. He does. He just doesn't know what
He
to do.
doesn't know what to do.
And literally to the point where the owner of the shop was like, "Hey man, so if you just take your lighter and clean that up," the guy actually told him, and he's like, "Yeah, all my cigar." And then we just started making fun of him because
And it's curling up.
we don't understand. I've had cigars with him for over 20 years now. We play poker all the time together.
Oh.
he
I started to hand you this.
he constantly has that, and we can't figure it out because I'm like, is he lighting him properly? Is
He doesn't tend to his cigar ever. Once he lights it, whatever happens, happens.
But I often don't either.
Yeah.
But I don't have that. It's anyway. It's very odd. What are the couple things right off the bat? I had something on.
Well,
there
let's talk about your theory that the easier a label comes off, the better the cigar is.
Yes.
This should be the best cigar I've ever smoked
Right off, right?
because it just.
I mean, that was 3 minutes of
Yeah,
unwrapping.
I don't know now.
Well, the actual
No,
band.
the actual the band.
band.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
The
I was saying,
band-
like, is it, it took a minor safe cracker to
Well,
get through this.
You just have to perform surgery. That's all. I've never had a really good cigar that the band didn't just come off really easily.
I'm
I've
not
had
a
good
surgeon.
cigars where it was tough,
This
but
guy.
It's not lighting.
anyway, what's on there? I had something. What was it?
Okay, so starting off here, what were you obsessed with as a child that you thought would never
Oh, yeah.
lose its draw, but has? Okay, I see the whole sentence now. What were you obsessed with as a kid that you thought you'd never lose its draw, but it has?
All right,
So
good.
I was reading it was 30 hobbies that every man should do, and
No, it's every man.
every man, and a bunch of them were things that I've done that have been hobbies that maybe still are, but there were a couple on there that I was like, oh my gosh, I was obsessed with this at some point, and I was like, it's funny because I'm not anymore, and I remember some of them were like, I started them, and I'm like, this is my new, which I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. Apparently, that's a very
Your new
normal
thing is all the time.
and it's like the greatest thing ever. And I thought, like, how funny, because there were a number of those where I'm like, I thought at some point, like, this is going to be my new living. I'm going to make a job out of this. And then eventually I'm like, I mean, I still might enjoy it, but it's just lost
Examples?
its luster. So rock climbing, I competed in rock climbing. I got super good. And I think it more that I was just young. Half is personality. The other half is like, I'm going to be the best rock climber in the world. And then I saw the French guys and went, oh, I'll never. There's dudes who do pinky pull-ups like it's nothing.
Well, your
And I'm
frame
like,
isn't exactly.
No,
built.
I am not. I'm not built to be a rock
He's
climber.
built like a mountain.
No, yeah. Other people just climb on me.
Yeah.
You could be a professional rock climber's rock.
Yeah, I'm a boulder. I just stand all weird and they
They're
climb
on top.
me. Yeah.
Made it.
Sir, if we can get the weight to hand ratio as disproportional as possible, this will work out for you.
Dude, we just did. So we just went to Cayucas with the family, and there's playgrounds on the beach in Cayucas.
Yep.
And so I was challenging the boys to the monkey bars and hanging contests and stuff.
Don't do that.
Luckily, I can still beat the kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is weird because Shepard's a rock climber, and so I'm like,
And they weigh nothing.
and they weigh nothing. But luckily, I'm strong.
Yeah.
But it is funny that while I was kind of at the top of my game rock, maybe not the top, but I was very good at rock climbing at the time, my sister and I did a haying contest. My sister beat me handily, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way. I can do a one-arm
sister?
pull-up. Christina,
She beat you in hanging?
dude. And I was tripping out.
We said this forever in the 100, physical 100, that the hanging is the
Yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
to the women.
Weight to strength, man.
It's
There's
Survivor.
No way
We
around
said it
it.
all the time. We said I don't know what that is. They just can.
She just hung there, and I was like, frick, I challenged a 95-pound girl to a hanging
also
contest.
95-year-old.
Well, she is 95 years old.
She really
Your
beat
parents had kids at
It
different
was,
stages.
but the weird part, it was the arthritis just hooked her hand on there, and she couldn't get it off. 95, you're hanging, no problem.
I was going to make a worse
She-
joke.
at the end of it,
like,
she-
her dementia, she couldn't remember like where she's like,
Am I still hanging? Am I what?
that was bad.
I was gonna say the arthritis. She goes, I didn't know I was hanging. I just happened to walk and got caught up
Yeah.
by this bar.
Oh.
Just swings. Do you have
That's
anything
great.
like that you were like
Yeah, what do you guys got?
so into this?
I used to draw a lot, both cartoon
No
and,
way!
and
I'd love
actually
to see some.
architecture.
I'd love to see
Wait, you
some.
knew this?
Yeah.
Have
Why
you-
is Josh the best friend of all of us?
Gosh dang it.
He knows everything about us. We are terrible people.
It's true.
Yep.
I got nothing.
You know, Josh
did-
left me a voicemail recently. I was looking at the moon,
Oh, yeah.
Still
thinking
the best.
about our friendship.
That was great.
So you,
Good callback.
do you consider yourself an artist?
No.
Oh, come
no,
on.
I would cartoon. I would draw cartoons, and I did
Originals,
architecture.
or are you
Funnies?
copying other ones?
A little bit of both. Like I never wrote anything
From
to
the
go with
funnies,
it.
or-
Like from the funnies. Like
Yeah.
Thriller Gorilla was one of my favorite from
No
Town and Country.
way.
It was one
I
of
don't
my
know what
favorite
that
things to
is.
draw.
That's crazy.
There's a gorilla from Town and Country was a clothing line. back when Joe and I were in high school.
Oh my gosh! I remember
Gorilla
when you
Gorilla.
said that.
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I do.
I probably bet if you showed the pictures, I probably remember that.
Yeah, you
And then I did architecture for a while.
Dude, that's
Back in school, not never
super cool.
professionally,
But
Wow.
you took like architectural classes and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a great major.
It is, yeah. And
Hard.
I was
A lot of
decent
work.
at it.
When's the last
A
time
lot
you
of
drew
work.
something?
Cool, man.
I don't even remember. Like anything of any consequence, I don't even remember.
Okay.
You don't draw for fun anymore.
No. I don't do anything for fun.
Really?
No, I do a lot for fun.
Okay, I was
Mo-
gonna
most
say.
of my fun stuff revolves
He
around
curls
my family.
for fun.
A curl.
I like this.
He curls. Yeah, I
Curdles.
don't know.
Curdles. He just gets
Curdles his
rotten,
milk.
spoils milk for
He
fun.
just leaves milk outside for a couple
He's
days.
like, yeah.
Oh, wasn't that awesome?
Look at those curdles.
Honey, come look at this.
Look at this cottage cheese.
All
Look at
right.
my curds and whey.
Josh, is there anything that you thought you'd never, just like, this is me, besides drugs? Is there anything else?
no.
I used to actually dance a lot.
I'm sorry, what?
Like I actually thought I
love
was going to be
it.
a professional dancer.
I
Hold on,
love
hold on.
this so
What's your
much.
preferred style of dancing?
It was
It's
it was
hip-hop.
hip hop and breakdancing.
No, it was not.
And
I
actually
do not
I used
believe
to I used to like. It's kind of funny because now I've been so entrenched in music and playing, but literally people didn't know my name in school. They'd be like, "Oh, you're the dancer kid."
Okay,
And I used
we're
to
gonna
dance all the time.
We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna back the cameras up.
I'm gonna break my back,
We're
but I
gonna
could probably still do stuff.
give
I'd probably
you a-
do something.
Get some,
What
take
could
some
you-
cardboard down.
Like, what of breakdancing could you? By the way, you're so young. Why
Could
were you
head
breakdancing?
spin and hand spin?
I thought
I
breakdancing went out.
Got to there.
Breakdancing is
flaring,
still pretty big.
flaring,
You can flare?
turfing,
I don't know what turfing
popping
is.
and locking, and
you
robot
can
and all that.
pop?
Yeah.
All right, you. I
Wow.
mean, we
I don't. I
we
haven't
don't
done a
have-
long
we don't
time,
even
but I
have to
probably
move the
could.
table for
Could
that.
you
quick,
could
like-
you
Do an arm right now. Just do one arm right now. Do a pop with
it
one
was
arm.
like boom, bop, boom.
Oh, got a little bit.
oh,
I
he's
see
got-
it.
I see it too.
I see it in there.
Very good.
That's 10 years later.
Can you do the hardest move ever, which is the where you,
Oh,
you
the-
hit your arm? And it's,
Oh, I used to
Can you do that?
It was
That
like when I was a
that
kid.
was a real move when I was a kid.
I know.
When I was a
That's a real
kid, it was all,
move.
I know.
I would just sit in class and like woo, like all that stuff. And then
So
over
fun.
time, I figured out people liked it, and I was like,
Oh,
this
it's
is fun,
super
And then
entertaining.
there'd be like dance battles, and you'd clear an area,
Yeah.
and so it'd be always me and my buddies we'd dance battle each other all the time. And I was like, I literally
fun.
I watched
Yeah.
TV shows. I got into it pretty
Dude,
intensely.
the dance battles on YouTube are so fun to watch. I was
I
hoping
wanted-
Shepard would get into
I wanted
breakdancing because I thought
to-
it was so cool. I'm
I-
like, this is neat.
I used to watch them and like review them, like
Okay.
review the dancing.
It's
critical,
pretty
Of course,
like
wanna get-
write critical
Yeah.
comments.
Or just be
So
like,
you-
oh, that's cool. I've never seen
Want to hear,
that.
That's
wanna
so
hear
fun.
something really weird? Two of mine are cartooning. As a kid, have like
You used to
notebooks of
draw?
cartoon all the time. Yeah, no, it wasn't any good though. But I liked the storytelling of the cartoons.
Oh,
so I always liked that was
interesting.
so I was a mediocre at cartooning, but I
Yeah.
liked telling this different stories.
Oh, that's fun.
And then breakdancing.
Yeah.
Oh,
used
I
to
thought you were
dance
gonna
all the
say
time.
rapping.
Oh yeah, but that rapping came out of that. You know what I mean? But it was
Okay.
but my breakdancing ended in 6th grade. Like this is a long time
Yeah.
ago. Like to where people were doing the worm. The
Yeah.
worm was new.
That's when the worm was
when I was a kid.
invented.
That was invented. Right.
Can you do the
That's it.
worm?
No, I mean I could back in the day. Right? I can't. I'm an old man. Kidding me?
We know.
The
The worm is not feel
Could you do
good.
the
By the way,
reverse
you ever
worm?
I
done the
was
worm?
just
The
gonna
worm does
say,
not feel good.
The worm.
No, it does not.
It would hurt so many
No,
areas.
it hurts a
It's
lot.
terrible.
No, the reverse worm saves that because
Yeah.
you can kind of control it.
I used
That's
to.
where you start with your head first.
I didn't even know there was a reverse
Yeah.
worm.
I didn't
I
think
was
about
more-
it, but I was like, oh yeah, I've seen the reverse
I
worm.
popped and I flared and
Yeah.
I up rock. Do
Yeah,
they still call
top
it
rock,
Yeah,
like
top
up rocking,
What's
top
a
rock.
flare?
What's-
Flaring is like when you have your legs out.
Oh, and you're
And
kind
you're-
okay.
But
Oh,
I wasn't.
yeah, that is
I
cool.
wasn't great
Like
at any of that
windmilling.
stuff. I was better at the.
The weird part is
the-
Joe popped, but he did not lock. Oddly enough, that's the weirder part of that. There
I
was
used,
no
to,
lock.
I used to love when you like break down each piece. It was cool.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
good. It was
How
a great time.
funny.
But that's so the. It's funny to say. I thought the cartoon I'd do forever. I really did. I
Yeah.
thought that's something I'd do forever, and then it went away. And then the other one is I guess it's a hobby because they said golf was a hobby on your list.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'd play basketball until I died. Like I thought
and the
that'll
last time
be
you played basketball, you almost died.
yeah, that's right. So it was about. That's why I held on for so long after the injury, because I just thought this is me. I'm going to. I've been doing this since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to play basketball the rest of my life. So letting that go was actually pretty rough.
That's funny.
I was gonna say drawing, but you took it too. Yeah, I used to do drawing all the time.
Yeah, you
still-
still
I still
do
draw.
some draw.
I still do draw, though.
You
And
probably
you're,
do.
You're
actually good.
It's funny that we all drew I drew a ton.
Yeah.
And like
That's because
none
we
of
were
us really.
because we were the little brothers who had nothing else to do but like just draw in our room.
I wonder. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's weird.
Isn't it
I
weird-
still draft for work.
You do quite a bit.
I always
yeah.
think it's a funny.
Not for fun.
I
though.
always
good
think it's
at
a
it, too.
funny
Right.
trope in movies and TV shows when there's the street kid. He's either good at poetry or drawing. You know what I mean? It's like the one and like Family Guy makes fun of it, and he's like,
Yeah.
"I read some of her poems; they're actually pretty good."
Why is it? But why is it always?
That's Finding Forrester.
That's funny. That trope of drawing. Like I'm watching Invasion on Apple TV, and the kid is an artist and draws the girl he likes, and it's
Yeah.
like, and that is a trope in so many. That's
It's that,
interesting.
like this kid has no value. He can draw. You know, like,
Yeah.
Except
okay.
The
then I
weird
go
part
on
is it
YouTube.
never matters.
It doesn't- How are you going to feed us with this drawing ability?
No, and now, but now you go on YouTube and there are artists who are just insane.
Oh
Right.
my
Ultra
gosh.
realism and all that.
And
It's-
the ultra realists are the ones where I don't
get it.
I can't.
Do you know why
I might
those?
come close
You know
to
what's
that.
great about those? It keeps all those kids from going to art school who shouldn't go to art school and just go get a real job.
Go get a real
That's
job
true.
and keep drawing on the side.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm pretty. Oh, I
draw
saw
for
them on
entertainment.
Instagram. I'm good. I'm just gonna go to Fresno State and get
Yeah.
a business degree.
There's an artist on YouTube named Jazza who is so entertaining. He's a phenomenal artist. He uses all different mediums and stuff. And he had an art kit that I bought for Shepherd. Mediums.
Mediums.
He does seances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is great off
before
the
we
foot.
start,
It's so good.
It is really good.
I was just thinking that
it's interesting, right?
right off the bat.
It's
And
smooth.
it's very unique. It doesn't taste like another cigar I've had.
It
It's
doesn't
got
have much
like
aftertaste.
Nope, not much
No,
aftertaste.
it's pretty smooth.
It's got a weird like vanilla hint to it.
I was gonna say creamy. It's a little creamy.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
very creamy.
Anyway,
Yeah. Why does Christianity seem to be up in everyone's grill?
okay. I was driving and I'm like,
Because
I
everyone's
thought
on
I really
fire.
thought he was going to introduce the show.
me too.
I
I
was
did
like,
too.
Me
This is
too.
the perfect
like,
time to
oh,
introduce the show.
No, I don't want to do it.
No, don't do it. Don't do it now. This was just driving and I had this weird.
Welcome to You Won't Hate It, where we talk about life through the lens of pastors at the length of a cigar. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.
I'm Joe.
Oh, I missed you.
I'm Joe.
I was too
I'm
slow
Joe.
on that. I was driving and I thought, man, like the idea of a world where people just leave each other alone, like you live your life. I don't give a rip. Like have fun. And then I thought, but I like the influence of others to like make, monitor your, behaving well to other people. So it's like that we should monitor. But then I realized like Christianity seems like one of those things, and it's because we're a predominantly Christian society. It's always in people's face about like how you should live and what you should do, stuff outside of like the normal, like, yes, we want you to be a Christian because we want you to live the abundant life and follow God. But then it's like, here's how you should speak. Here's how you should dress. Here's how you, like a bunch of the questions I've been going over with the Mike Winger segment and all that. A lot of them are like, how other people dress, how other people speak, how other people behave. And I'm like, geez, we're always up in each other. Like Christianity just has this vibe of like,
You can't keep telling
get it.
everybody that you have the truth and then not also then feel like you need to enforce the truth. I think humans have a propensity towards if we're in agreement this is true and then you're not doing it, I think you're inviting a discussion. I'm not even saying that's right. I'm
Okay.
just thinking that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mindset.
It's interesting. Yeah.
it's weird that it goes from, hang on one sec. It's weird that it goes from like, here's the truth, here's how I should live. And you're like, that's cool, I don't agree with it. And it's like, but you should still live this way.
Right.
I don't know. I find
well,
that odd.
you're
Is
not invited to the
just
cook-off
me?
anymore.
Is it just me, or are the three things that you mentioned the subjects of our last three podcasts?
It might be. It might be those
So is
questions.
it us that's telling everybody?
Well, no, those are the questions that I'm getting. Dang it, we don't do it.
I think it's what Joe said, and I think back to the Penn Jillette. Penn Jillette, how much do you have to
interesting.
hate someone to not tell them the truth as you see it? And so when somebody's convinced that, and Christians for as long as I can remember have always been this way, because this is what God is doing in me. It's what He wants to do in everyone.
Yeah,
Matthew
yeah.
28, the Great Commission too is like to go out. So like there's this
Right.
idea.
So,
of,
but here's the distinction that I wonder if we've overstepped.
we have.
Okay.
There's no wonder.
I don't know if we have.
I'd like
but
to-
I
the
have.
big we.
we
Yeah,
have.
Yeah,
I'd
Joe.
like you to know the truth in terms of here's the abundant life, here's salvation, here's Jesus as your Lord and Savior, here's God as your Father. But it goes from there, like that's the go out, make disciples of all nations. Now here's how you dress, here's how you look, here's
Right.
how you speak, and I'm like, gosh, dang, man. Or just introduce them to Jesus and settle. If they're asking and you're discipling somebody and they're like, man, how do I grow closer to Christ? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to go out and like tell, especially, I've always found it odd that Christians want to tell non-Christians how to behave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, but they don't buy into what you
what
do.
is a truth that you uninvited share with people? Like, so, like, if you,
I got mine
yeah,
immediately.
okay, good. So that's
Yeah.
it. What is it like? Forget Christianity. What's the one like? If someone's,
Uninvited.
Yeah.
it's unprompted. You
I
just
only
just
have
share
mine
it with somebody.
because one of the questions on there was what's a piece of advice or a piece of information that you would give to the world that if they would receive it, it would just change the world.
Right.
And so for me, I've got one. Do you guys have anything?
That
Can
you
you think
just-
of something?
Advice you give somebody.
So it's not regarding specifically.
No,
Christianity.
No,
nothing.
it's just like because we're saying like Christians are doing it, but where's a place where you're just like, hey, stranger.
Yeah.
Just so you know, don't light the gas pump on fire.
Yeah,
the
is there
truth.
something like that?
Yeah. I don't
I'm
know,
sure I
Floyd.
have them, but I can't think of what they would be.
So mine, just so we don't have massive dead air, mine was that if I could convince everyone that they and everyone else is created in God's image and has worth, like I want to go out of my way to spread that because I'm like, even if you don't believe in the same God I do, or if you don't think if everyone has inherent value, just
I like
because
that.
you're on this planet,
Yeah.
do you know how much that solves?
So you're not saying things that we actually share with people uninvited, but things
Well,
that
okay,
you would
I was wondering how
I was
far
asking- yeah, I was
you're
asking. So like for
deviating
me, it's
from-
like if I'm watching a dad run his kid down verbally, you know what I mean? Just like I'm like he's getting uninvited advice.
Would you say something?
Oh hell yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
hey, kid,
if he's just
shape
like,
up.
if he's
Yeah.
like-
Hey,
if he's-
listen to your dad.
Yeah, if this kid, if this dad was just being like, "You suck, you're not going to be amount to anything," I'd be like, "Dude, let me help you," because I'm not even mad at you. Like that's probably what your dad did to you, so I'm going to help you out here.
Yeah.
Like kids will raise up to whatever you speak above
Yeah.
them. So
Good.
I'd be like, "No, I'm going to say something." And then again, not to try and belittle the dad, because I'm
Right.
like, if you're doing this because you're trying to help your kid, let me help you. So I wouldn't wait for someone to ask my opinion on that one.
That's good. In most movie theaters, Ashley hates going to see movies that are like, we went and saw Ninja Assassin, some kung fu type movie.
When?
This was years
Okay.
ago.
I was like,
I'm trying to
what
find it in my
movie
head.
is this?
I like how
Years
it's
ago.
ninja and it's like kung fu.
But
You
there,
mean
yeah,
ninjutsu?
yeah, whatever.
Way to
It
point
was,
out way to point out his ignorant racism.
Yeah,
Good job,
come
Jack.
on, Josh. You know what it's like. You know kung fu, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a kid in there who was way too young, and it was like gory, violent. Like they would chop people's heads off and blood
Yeah.
would squirt and stuff, like Kill Bill type stuff.
Oh, like kung fu.
like kung
It's
jitsu.
ninja.
Kung Jitsu.
And
like
the
it.
kid started crying.
Shocking.
Because he didn't like it. And the dad, like, shushed him.
That's amazing.
And I stood up, and Ashley was like, "Oh, Ryan, why?" And I'm like, "Because this isn't okay." And I was like, "Are you shocked that your kid is crying?" And so I probably berated the dad a little too much.
Yeah.
And the kid cried more.
No, the kid actually came and sat with me. I bought him popcorn, and he's now shepherd.
He's now like,
That's my oldest son.
The kid leans over to Ryan. Psst, kung fu and ninja aren't the same thing.
I was like,
Just so
"Listen,
you know."
man." Anyway.
All right, yeah. So you guys nothing like that? I feel like there's a few things.
There's-
I feel
there's
like
definitely-
There are. That's what's
I didn't
funny.
know how far we were deviating from Christianity. I know.
I
No,
just-
no,
know what you
no. It
meant.
doesn't have to be Christianity.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the idea of like, would you? Because we're like, if you're saying Christians are offering
Yeah.
people truth, but everybody does that. We do
Yeah.
that
Sure.
in lots of areas. Like, have you ever given someone advice at the bistro
Every
with their
night.
gear?
Oh, my
Whether they
gosh.
ask or not, right?
This
Every
guy-
night.
This guy's the
Yeah.
worst.
It's
Kind of his job,
Yeah.
though.
No,
I mean, that's kind
it's
of what
not.
Not his
though.
job.
It's not his
They
job.
could go up and fail
He's
their
the-
ass
he's
off at
the
the bistro, and it
stage
doesn't mean
No,
anything to
they
him.
actually asked him to stop coming into the bistro about 4 years
Sir,
ago.
please leave.
So,
Sir.
yeah.
By the way, stage manager is not the same as stage dick. Like
Yeah.
you don't know it.
Oh, it's
Like-
not?
I can't beep this, Joe.
So just so you know, like stage manager isn't like, who cares if I'm terrible at music? I don't need your advice.
I do.
I
Yeah,
know.
we
That's
have to
what I mean.
listen
This
to
is
you.
my point.
Right.
Like I'm
Stop
saying, like it's
polluting
not your
the
job.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
You were glad to be like, no.
Yep.
What about pronunciation? Are you a pronunciation guy?
I am the worst person about
That
pronunciation
is
to
true.
be able to call
That
that
is
I
out.
wasn't sure if you're being funny about that.
No, it just he's because he's
disappointed.
got a communications degree, and so I feel like those types.
How about the fact when someone says
guy.
somebody speaks in the third person? Is it appropriate to correct them?
Floyd
On
feels like it can be
You
appropriate
did
at
it
times.
in a
to-
text. You did it. You
I do
third
it,
person
yeah.
a text.
He does it all the time.
It is an
100%.
interesting. That is an interesting thing.
You know, I think what part of it is that in writing, in academic writing, you're supposed to do that.
This guy.
And I think that, no, I'm just trying to make a stupid excuse.
That was pretty good. I was actually convinced.
You know,
I was gonna say, just so you know-
this is something you guys wouldn't know about.
Like, half of our audience went,
Higher education.
Just so you know, whenever you're working on your PhD, these are the things they have to say. You have to speak in the third person. No, you don't. That has
You
nothing
don't.
to do with the
Yeah,
PhD.
all his professors are like, hey, honestly, this is driving us crazy.
yeah.
No, there are parts of it where they want you to write in third person. And then I actually got criticized because I wrote in third person in part of it. And I'm like, you're supposed to write in third person here. I'm so confused.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I feel like
I
you
don't
wrote
either.
your own rules.
All right, so let's
I might
let's
have.
swing this back to
Floyd
Christianity.
might have written those
So
rules.
swing this back to Christianity, all being up in people's business, right? So I think it's more human, especially when you're convinced you believe something is true.
Okay. So this is what I was actually wondering if it's a uniquely.
Is it like on social media? What do you mean, like up in everyone's grill?
It just feels like, and I think it's because that I grew up in a predominantly Christian society and household, and it just seemed like everyone was trying to tell, and I see it today also, where it's like even with our laws, and I'm not saying good or bad, like I am, but you look at like abortion laws. And it's like that stems from, I think, a Judeo-Christian stance.
100%.
Right.
And so it's like, this is how, given I have a pretty clear stance on that because I am a Christian. And so I have a certain view.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that where it's just like, this is how you should act. This is how you should live. The church, because I grew up in the church, felt like it did that all the time. Like the church when I was young told me what music I could and couldn't listen to.
Yeah.
Right.
I burned cassette tapes because they were bad.
Yeah.
Like I was part of that.
They're like, Ryan, what are you doing?
by myself. Dude, what are you doing? Shut up! I'm a sinner.
It's Simon and Garfunkel. What could possibly be bad about
Dude,
this?
we literally in the parking lot of the church I went to had a youth group bonfire where we burned our stuff that was people threw in like Dungeons and Dragons games and like cassette tapes and books, and I'm like, looking back, I'm like, God, that's weird,
And
dude.
then there's just this big plastic blob.
It
left
was.
over the
It was
next
so
day.
bad for the
gross.
environment, dude.
And here's the funny part is, like, obviously we don't teach people to do that. That's, that's...
Well, wait, we don't?
Well, but the reality is...
Not this week.
Is there are, videos of Karens everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? People who are just convinced to tell somebody what they're... It
Oh,
has nothing to do with
Christian
Christian... No,
Karens?
just Karens in
Just
general.
Karens.
Are they all
Who just-
Christian?
No.
Yes, I bet you they all
Oh,
are.
my gosh. All Karens are Christian. No.
No, I thought that's why you're.
No, just saying, like, people who are just want to tell you what you're doing is
Yeah,
wrong.
well, yeah.
Okay, I get
And
it.
that
They
was
just
It has nothing to do with them, but they like want to stop people from skateboarding. They
Right.
want to
Just want to tell people.
they want to police the world.
Yeah.
And
And they're not all old. You can be, they're
No,
young Karens. Just like,
absolutely.
I'm going to tell you what's up.
Yeah.
And when you're a Christian doing it, everybody's like, what's up with Christianity? I'm like, or just someone's being a Karen.
every
Right.
culture, every subculture has that, right? And do you think that is part of it that for us we see the Christian movement doing it more because we're a part of it?
Maybe.
Because I mean,
when's the
I
last
think
time you've heard of
social
somebody doing
media.
Oh.
Well, I think social media
Actually.
in general is that it's people screaming everywhere about everything
Yeah.
all at once
A
about
press conference
their
for
agenda.
people who don't deserve a press conference.
Yes,
That's social
best
media.
line.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
All right.
All
So we
right.
solved nothing
We've
again.
solved nothing.
That's
Yep.
something that our show should be called We've Solved Nothing. That should be the
Yeah.
name of our show.
Yeah, you won't hate it.
You won't hate it.
How do you know? Oh, is this the? How do you know you're fighting for the truth?
No, at some point we should tell people what they're watching.
Yeah.
We did.
He did.
He did.
I forgot.
That's amazing.
I
bro.
did tell
You were the one hanging with
then
the
when you-
dementia. You're like, oh,
And then when you said we did, I went, now I remember.
Yeah.
All
Because I
right,
couldn't.
so based on that question, I was showing Ryan, we shared videos. I was showing Ryan a video that someone shared with me about a guy from Hezbollah. So he's part of the terrorist organization from Iran, like an Iranian proxy. And he got saved. And he was telling a story about how he met Jesus. Ryan goes, that's interesting. I just saw a video of a guy who was part of Hamas, and he got saved. And so both of them said, we were doing every single thing they told us to do, like according to Allah, according to the Quran. And both guys said, yet I knew I wasn't right in what I was doing. Like what I was doing, I just knew in my heart was wrong. Even though, according to my religion and my religious leaders, I was doing it perfectly right. And they said that kind of opened the door to then I had an encounter with Jesus. So the question we had was, how do you know when you're fighting for the truth? If you're a part of an organization and they're telling you God is blessing the thing you're doing, even in Christianity,
Yes.
right? If you're like, I'm a prosperity gospel person, I'm going to name it and claim it, and I feel good about it. Even like back 20 years ago, some of the views I had, like I'm doing the right thing. I look down, I'm like,
Yeah, so the
was
guy
I doing
from
the right thing?
the guy from Hamas, actually, he was fairly high up, and he talks about, in fact, the guy from Hezbollah does too. Like they did like disgustingly atrocious things to other people in the name of Allah, and the guy from, I don't know about the guy from Hezbollah, I didn't watch the full one, but the guy from Hamas, he actually said he went back and fought against Hamas. Like there's pictures and video of him suited up in full military gear, physically fighting against the evil now, as he called it. He was very blunt and cut and dry with his verbiage. He's intense. The guy's a stud. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he is fighting evil now. And Joe's like, how do you know? Like, that's why that question came up. Like, how do you know?
Right.
Because right
that's
now,
what he thought he was doing before.
Exactly. And and currently, we're all doing that. We are fighting what we think is evil. How do we know as pastors? I mean, we've committed our lives to this, for crying out loud. How do you know you're fighting for the right side or fighting for the good or the truth versus
Especially if
just your
you-
opinion?
Especially if you have religious books that will support you one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And religious books on both sides say, well, this religious book says I'm doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Well, and with the plethora of information that's out there, you can find sources to support your ideas, even if they're...
easy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
even
Right.
if they're crazy.
So how do you know, and you can boil it down to how do you know that this is the truth?
Truth I've accepted, truth I've learned.
Or objective truth.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
so much of what we would consider truth is predicated upon the way that we grew up and our fundamental belief structure, and so it's hard to disseminate. It's hard to discern that. Like, is this really truth, or is this just truth to me because of how I view the world?
Right.
My worldview tells me this is truth.
Yeah.
But there is somebody on the other side of the planet that doesn't have my worldview. How can that be truth to them?
So how would you defend this faith then? Ashley and I just had this conversation when we were in Pismo. She had mentioned something about or I had said something about an atheist who had made a comment, and I was talking to them, and I said something about the truth, and she's like, "Well, that's your truth," and I was like, "No, this is objectively truth." And she's like, "How can you say that?" I had a fairly quick response because I've, again, devoted my life to this.
Sure.
My responses are fairly quick.
For me, the response is if it was completely provable, it wouldn't take faith to believe it.
Okay.
yeah.
And mine's,
Okay.
I'll let everybody else go. Mine's going to be different because I got saved as an adult. So I have
Yeah,
obviously
I
had to
actually think
wrestle
you and
through
I
this.
because I think we've talked about this
Yeah.
at length. I think you and I have the same stance
Yeah.
on this. But I'm curious as to you guys.
What was your response to the lady? The atheist?
Well, I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you in a second.
I see what you're doing. All right.
But when you're challenged, which you probably are at
Yeah.
times,
Good amount.
what do you stand on? How do you know that this is truth? Because there's no way around it. We're not saying, yeah, I think this is right.
No.
We're not. Because if you are, this is the wrong job. We are definitely in the stance of this is
Well, I'm done.
the truth.
We've been meaning to talk to you, Joe.
We are I will say, we're not heavy-handed in it.
Sure.
We're not yelling at other people. I will give anyone their opinion.
We're
at
not
any time.
light in our convictions. We're light in our delivery.
Yes,
It's good.
Exactly.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
So what is it for you guys that tells you that you are fighting for the truth, that you are standing on the side of absolute truth versus a subjective truth?
Yeah, I think for myself, it would be the changes that I've seen personally as the more that I commit myself to Christ, the changes that I see personally. And then it's guys like, I'm just going to go ahead and drop a couple of names, like guys like Scott Richardson, guys like Corey Patindis, guys, the number of people that we have in recovery that come to an accepting knowledge of Christ, and then Christ begins to work in their life. Even guys that were good guys that then dive a little bit deeper into the Word, like Dave Garrison.
Yeah.
And you see massive changes in them over a very short period of time. I think that speaks to a fundamental truth that's there. Someone is having an impact in their life, and it's God, and He's changing them, and so that's what I rely on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're more on the I don't want to say more, but that's leaning on the testimony of the believer.
Yeah, the
Right.
changed
Yeah.
lives.
That's where you're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
good.
mine's definitely rooted in that as well. When there were times ever that I would have doubt, I would just think back and go, I'm here. Like I was adopted. I was born on another continent. It's like the way my life is led to a Lutheran church as a kid, and now growing in faith, there's so many opportunities that couldn't be orchestrated by one person
Okay.
or by multitude of people. And so that was personally
That's-
for me.
That's the
So-
weird thing. I want to let you know. It has all been orchestrated by multiple people.
He found it. The Matrix.
This
he
is
found out.
it's that
Figured
TV
it out.
show. It's the Jim Carrey show.
It's the Truman
It's the
Show.
Truman
It's
Show.
the Truman Show.
Yeah.
So
So-
can I?
You can push.
Can
That's
I push a little?
I think
Can you be
push.
an
Is
eight?
that mean?
Yeah,
Can
no,
you
no,
be
it's
an
not
eight?
mean.
But you were
It's not
saying,
mean.
but you were saying without the
How do you know you're fighting for the truth? That's
justification of like all the text that we have, right?
So no.
You
So
don't have to say anything yet.
my thought is, what about somebody in AA that gets clean without
Sure.
God? They use a higher power. They put their faith in themselves.
I have friends like that.
What about somebody who wasn't adopted from another continent and
Sure.
was left where they are, and their life wasn't? They don't feel like their life was
Oh, yeah.
orchestrated
Had it
at all.
worse off, yeah.
They live in pain, and they're one of the deletes in India, and it's like, my life was orchestrated, and like, what do you do with that now?
Right.
I'm just.
It's
This
a
is
good
the-
push. It's
it's
a
the
good- it's the right
push.
push.
But again, that's an environmental thing. That argument is based on this is what happened to me in my surroundings through my childhood, which is they're going to say that if that's not substantial enough for my truth, for the truth that or my learning of the truth, it's like then I guess what I'm saying is it feels like they've settled. Like I know it's a crappy situation, you have a horrible upbringing, horrible experiences, but if you're not fighting for truth, you've just been sitting in this situation. It's very normal to bring out like victim mentality and all these other things, but it's like, why are you fighting me on this? If you're fighting for truth, you'll find it. Like there are times when I wasn't seeking it, and still I found Jesus.
So you're saying if you're okay, they're making a different distinction.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
If you're,
Right.
if you're looking for truth, you'll find it. Because I would have said, someone else who was adopted into,
Or maybe a worse
a
situation.
Muslim
Horrible.
country
Right.
where they're
Exactly.
raised up to fight in,
Right.
wars.
Yeah.
And they're told
They are
this is
fighting
true.
for truth.
Right. So you're saying, and you're saying is like if you seek the truth, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's something that was adamantly taught to me as a kid,
Yeah.
but that's something that was also innately known.
We are seeing a beautiful conversion from Islam in terms of, because I do think a lot of Islam is very devout.
Sure.
And God says real clearly, Jesus says it, if you seek, you will find.
Right.
If you knock. And so I think a lot of them are seeking. And the number of testimonies that I've heard of Islamic people waking up in the middle of the night having a dream that a glowing man in their dream wakes them up, leads them through the city. They follow the man physically. They're woken up by a vision.
Like sleepwalked?
But they're awake,
Oh.
walk in the city, and they walk to the one Christian church their entire city has, and Jesus literally appears to them in a vision. An angel appears to them. That's not like a couple times I've heard that. I have heard countless
Well,
stories
the two guys
about that.
today talked
so-
about it, the glowing man.
Exactly.
The
Oh,
guy,
that's
the
got
Hezbollah,
chills. That's
guy
crazy.
talked about the glowing
Yeah.
man.
I'll have to read into those.
And there was this element
it's gorgeous,
that's true
yeah.
about what you're saying with them, which was there was something in them that knew what they're doing was wrong.
Yeah.
Like there was this, and they cared, right? They cared like this isn't true. What
Yeah.
I'm doing isn't true.
God
So
writes
that-
himself on
there's
the
a little
heart
bit
of
that-
man.
And my
Yeah,
point
he
with that
does.
was like if let's say we're having a discussion and they go like, well, there's all these wrong things that I'm forced to do that I've been taught to do. It's like, but you don't have to. Like you have opportunity to go if you're feeling that
But the
something's wrong.
difference, I would say that what about the ones who they don't think it's wrong? They were told it's right. These two guys,
Right.
and you know what? There were probably times where they thought it was right, and that they were later convicted. But the guys who maybe aren't forced to do horribly evil things, but to follow a false god,
Right.
whether it's Islam or
What
a
of all,
number of other
all
things.
of our Muslim friends who are good people and they're devoted to Islam, but the Bible would say that without Jesus they're going to hell. What about that guy?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a good family man. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing all the right stuff, but he's just like, but he's also not believing in Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, that's
So-
how do you guys decide which one's standing on the truth in
Well,
that
that's,
scenario?
That's actually interesting.
That's one of the fundamental questions, right? That led to the problem with evil, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah.
that is it.
Yeah.
And I guess that for me, I just have to come back to God is bigger, smarter, and greater than I am,
Okay.
and His grace is sufficient,
Yep.
Yeah.
and He has to sort it all out.
But also, if this isn't a situation where you're fighting for the truth, that's why I feel like I'm not going to be left. I'm now reading a lot more than I've ever read, and it's because I'm still seeking. It's not like I've settled on. There are obviously a few things that I know, like these are my rock. But everything else, I'm like, I have to learn. I'm still curious.
Yeah.
I'm still searching, and if it's a fighting discussion where it's like, your truth is wrong, this is what the truth is, it's like, yeah, I'm still learning about that, man, but are you? Are you still searching? Are you reading into it? Are you asking more questions?
Yeah.
Or are you just staunchly sitting in this position of everyone's wrong except me? And I'm like, live your life that way, but I can't do that.
I have a
I-
really
I love
inappropriate-
I love the humility in that.
Yeah.
I pray that Christians, I pray that humans in general, but Christians specifically have that humility to say, like, this is what I think right now,
Right.
and I will forever be a student. I will forever be a disciple. The whole point of a
Yeah.
disciple is that we are following.
Right.
And so it's how do you land on I'm more and more confident that I am following the truth. And again, I think you and I have the exact same
only one
answer.
answer
So
for me.
I'll let you share.
It's only one answer. It's the one thing I came to which is if Jesus rose from the dead, He's God, and what He says matters. That's the separating point of everything else. Again, every other person talks about what they think they know about God. Jesus is talking as God.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And then He rose from the dead to prove it. So it's like, am I listening to God Himself, or am I listening to anybody else's philosophical or theological notions on spirituality?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and if He is God, then He supersedes law and order in our world. Like, He is actually the creator of the universe. And so that's why I think it comes down when we're talking about Christianity is, did He rise from the dead or not? So I
Yeah.
became an expert on the resurrection, because I'm like,
Exactly.
it's the only thing that matters.
Right.
And if He rose from the dead, now we're just fighting over what Jesus said. But the reality is, if He rose from the dead, He is God. What He says matters.
And how do you know that what you think of Jesus is the truth? How do you know?
And-
where do you stand on the rising from the dead part? What do you want to say?
Yeah,
Phil?
and how do you prove that to somebody? How does that affect change in somebody that doesn't believe?
Or who hasn't
And
read
the-
the Bible.
and-
Sure.
and
So
this is-
2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
this thing happened that you and I are like dead sold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because that's a belief structure that's predicated on the faith that you already have.
Well, not
that's-
me. I didn't start with that faith. I started
that's-
with.
so I
started
like
as
this.
I started as a non-believer.
I like this. And
So
you and I
didn't-
came to the same realization in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Separately, I grew up in a Christian household. You did not.
Yeah.
But we got there in the same place, which is kind of where I want to get to.
Yeah, and I think what you end up doing is that whereas you can scientifically test gravity, right? Right, you can test whether gravity exists. With the resurrection and with all belief systems, right? You can't do a scientific measure. You're still relying on history, you're relying on testimony.
Right.
And so the great line from Lee Strobel when he had the book that's been very successful, which is Case for Christ, is you are always asking which way does the evidence point.
Yep. There. That's where I wanted
That's
to
the
get.
bottom line. So I can't tell you definitively
Yes.
that you're wrong as an atheist, as a Muslim, but if we're pointing at which way does evidence point,
Yeah.
it's at the resurrection and Jesus is God. That's the bottom line. We're just comparing. And what has happened in our world now is that honest dialogue is gone. And so when we're saying which way the evidence point, people are like, no, I'm not going to listen to you because some guy on YouTube said this.
Right.
Right,
It's
or your
surprising.
evidence is false or whatever.
I started saying this recently. I started doing, well, in this dynamic at church, but also in radio, is not all resources are equal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the problem. Is everybody's like, all resources are equal? They're
No.
not
No.
all equal.
Right.
Who says that?
Well, it's the way the world works. Is you're refuting what
Yeah.
this person says with another person who has no credentials and there's no evidence, there's no history, there's no support.
In the same way that like all religions aren't the same. You've got a religion that is based in ancient culture. There's a crazy amount of evidence. The number of prophecies that have every single one of them come true in Scripture that all pointed to Jesus as the Savior,
Right.
versus something like, and my car is probably going to blow up when I go out to it. But you get something like Scientology, where like
Gutsy.
Oh, yeah.
they literally
Are you driving the Tesla or the
it's
truck?
it's the truck, so
Ah,
it's,
you're fine.
it's a gas fire. But I mean, honestly, it's a science fiction author.
Yeah.
Came up with like, and again, you believe whatever you want, don't kill me. But it's like one of them is, and there are ancient religions also that I would argue have a lot of truth in them.
Right.
But then you stand on this one that claimed to be God. There were other guys that claimed to be God that were all killed, did not rise again. Even the ones who have claims of rising again, there's no backing, there's no evidence to that.
One changed the entire planet.
One changed
12
the way
guys with one guy.
It changed literally
The planet.
everything about our planet, including the way we tell time
Sure.
to this day. It's marked by this man because it made such a ripple in time that it changed everything. You've got guys who are willing to die for something that they thought was true.
Right.
You have thousands and thousands of ancient literature, of historical text, all talking about him doing miracles and rising from the dead. You have zero saying
think-
he didn't. Zero.
Zero.
That is insane. We have
The
24,000.
secular ones, the ones that did not believe,
Zero.
were like, but he did.
I remember learning, when you get into college and you start learning like real history, you're like, oh, all the history I've been learning has been it can be very subjective. I'm not saying all of it.
Absolutely can be.
And so
Yes.
then you
Teachers
get like
pick the books.
You
a lot
get,
of
I was going to
times,
say
don't
you get a book
Written
from
by the
Texas
victor, right?
versus
Yeah.
California, or you get something from the East Coast, or you read something that's from Europe. And it's all from a different perspective. A lot of them are subjective, but the more you start to build this picture and it gets clearer, and it kind of, I don't know why it just pointed out to me more how important unity is. So unity between people. What's happening is with the honest. So that's not honest dialogue, right? That's not honest text.
Right.
So that is it is not propaganda, but it is. I guess you could say that it is persuasive towards the betterment of that culture, that area. But there's so much what feels like more division nowadays in these discussions or in these arguments, as opposed to being like, yeah, you know what. We're not going to solve anything in this discussion, but at least we have this open dialogue.
I think it's very simple is we've lost just simple reason, meaning this.
Right.
If you wrote a letter to your wife,
Yeah.
right? We'd say this is an important letter. And
Don't
then
tell Terry.
I write a letter about what you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone 20 years from now writes a letter about what you wrote.
About
and then
what you
100
wrote.
years
Oh,
from now about
right.
what you wrote. And then everybody says, those are all equal.
Right.
And we'd say,
No.
they're
No.
not.
And
The
they're
most
not-
recent one is going to be
Where the one which is the one which
The
you actually
original
wrote,
source.
The one that I
the
wrote.
author to the recipient
Right.
and the original reader, the intended reader, you'd say this the way other. That's what we're talking about. Is
Eyewitness
like
accounts.
Yeah, so we start saying like, but there's other gospels out there that were written 1,000 years after Jesus lived. You're starting to Josephus, who's the greatest historian, 500 years after Jesus lived. So we're looking at stuff where it's those things that not all sources are equal. And if you're willing to be honest, you have to say, well, the Quran is equal to the Bible. The Quran was written by one guy, and it's his thoughts about God.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
There-
could write a Quran.
There's a huge.
You did. You wrote the Qumranian.
Oh,
well
shout
done.
out.
Back
That was the first Quran. I wrote the last Qumrani.
The idea of qualified sources is something that gets lost. It gets lost in all of the madness of modern society, media, cultural, social media.
It's access to information.
It's
Right.
yeah, and so I tend to defer back to academia. So I actually do when I'm.
I love macadamia nuts.
And me too. They're delicious.
I do not.
I'm with you, Ryan.
They are.
They're gross.
I do like a there's a multi-page teaching that I do on qualified academic sources. Like, what is a qualified academic source? And in academia, if you're going to present a contrary thought, you have to have qualified sources, and you have to cite a minimum of 3, preferably 5 qualified academic sources to present a dissenting opinion.
Right.
And so I think that the world sometimes it gets lost, and somebody had an idea, and Joe's Blogland is an equal source to, Plato's Republic.
Right.
One has stood the test of time, and one is some guy in his
Right.
mom's basement, and we see that happening in Christianity.
I think that's huge. I think that is one thing that gives me more and more confidence over the years, is that Scripture has been validated every time we turn around, even as recent as them finding Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
That was a myth. That was one of the things that atheists used to bash the Bible. Was
Right.
here's another one of those stories.
Even Christians thought it was allegory.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you go,
Oh,
shoot,
there's a real
that
place.
was legit. Like, so many of those things, and that is a tiny example, because I do think it all hinges on Jesus. But the fact that everything around Jesus is being validated, I go, that just validates Jesus even more.
yeah.
You've
Jesus-
got the Dead Sea Scrolls. You have all
Right.
these different. It's unbelievable.
Jesus speaks truth forward and backwards. So
Yeah.
the Old Testament becomes even more valid, and it was already considered valid.
Right.
And now the miracles of what God actually did aren't just allegory in the
Right.
past. Jesus, even when people are like, whether or not, just think about anything from the Old Testament that people considered an allegory. Christians.
Yep.
I'm like, that's an interesting note for Jesus to leave out. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, it really
Agreed.
is to be like, you know what? The creation story wasn't true.
Right.
And that's called an argument from silence, but it's still something to be like, huh.
Yeah,
He
something
would-
to think about.
I figured, like, if
Listen.
he thought, like, hey, that's not really how it happened, at some point over 3 years with the guys, one of the guys would have been like, hey,
Yeah.
is Genesis real?
Right.
Like, at some point, maybe ask that
Well,
question.
in John, I think it's John that closes with, if all of the things that Jesus had said and done had been recorded, all of the volumes of
the
all of
volumes
the
of the
world
world,
would
yeah.
not be able to
the world wouldn't be able to
contain
hold it. Yeah.
I actually really like what you had said, Floyd, because I feel like this gets lost very often, and I don't hear this enough in modern apologetics, but
Academia.
academia.
Macadamia
Macadamia
nuts.
I don't hear it enough. Is that this is the truth that we've stood on for a long time. I have no problem with you having a dissenting opinion. Absolutely. Everybody gets that. But
Back it up.
the onus is on you now. And
100%.
I have felt like that for some time, where I felt like Christians have been scrambling to defend themselves against an atheist, when I'm like, you're standing on the thing that's been around forever.
Yeah.
You're standing on a God concept. I don't even want to say Christianity in terms of Jesus, but
just
like
theism.
Theism. And I'm like, the atheist is actually, the onus is on the atheist to prove that there is no God.
Because that's the new revelation.
We've
right?
been standing
Right.
on theism since day one. We just have, whether it's false gods or not.
Right.
And then you come along and say no, and I go, oh, well, how come there's not a God? And it's like, look around, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, even the argument of like, well, because bad things happen. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but like we've had a response for that forever.
Right.
You need something tangible, more than what the like Sam Harris wrote in his book, The God Delusion. I'm like, that's a brand new source.
If you're going to fight against 4,000 years of history, you should have to point to something greater than your opinion.
You should. And in the same way that I think a Christian should point to something more
Sure.
than their opinion on
Right.
why we do believe. You should have a
right.
reason for an account for the joy that you have. Like, that's part of it.
And this is the whole idea is like when we talk about boils down to Jesus rising from the dead. When you're talking with an atheist, even someone like a top atheist articulator in the world, his bottom line of his argument is when you die, there's nothing. Right? That's the bottom line. That's the end of it.
Yep.
And our bottom line is when you die, there's something. And what we're actually going against is, did Jesus rise from the dead or not? I mean, we talk about atheists, it spills into every category in the world.
Yes.
And it's really one category.
It's really one argument.
That's actually
Was there a Jesus? Did he live? Did he die?
Right.
Did he rise from the dead?
Yeah.
That's really whenever I'm like, everything else is like, I feel like I could spin everything 50 different ways
Sure.
too, because I can't see God.
Yeah.
So
Right.
since I can't see God, I can think of all these arguments why he doesn't exist.
Right.
And the harsh reality, sadly, and I think we've said this before on here, is that it is impossible for me to prove that there is a God,
Right.
and it's impossible for you to prove that there's not.
That's what Alan Watts said.
There is definitely a faith aspect, which
100%.
I am very comfortable with, because I am using the evidence to point to my faith. An atheist has faith that there is nothing. And that's fine.
It has to have faith because they can't see it. So
They have to.
There's no
Right.
evidence either. So it has to be
So
faith.
both of us have faith, and I'm using the evidence that I have seen, and I have yet to, and I've said this before, I spend a large amount of my time looking at things that are contrary to my opinions and beliefs, and I have yet to hear something that would sway me enough. I've heard good arguments. Matt Dillahunty, who's one of the top 4 atheist proponents, like, he's a brilliant orator. Like, that guy is wonderful. I really enjoy his debates. He actually is the only man I've ever seen really make Jordan Peterson look kind of goofy. He made Jordan Peterson look dumb.
I got to see it.
Peterson, I think he was having a bad day because he got out of pocket and it didn't look good. Matt Dillahunty did a beautiful job. So I'm like, and I said this, I remember I told Ashley after I watched it, I was like, dude, this guy won that debate. But he didn't win the argument.
Right.
He won the debate really well because he really did. He spoke more eloquently. He had better points. He never got heated.
He was composed. Yeah.
He was very composed. So I'm like, he won, but he didn't win on the topic.
Right.
That was what was very
Well,
interesting.
I would be a horrible. I thought I wanted to be an apologist. I'd be a horrible apologist because I'd just keep being like, let's just keep talking about one thing.
Oh, yeah. People would
'Cause
hate that.
They would hate it. They'd be like, no, let's talk about all the things. But to me, I'm like, those are such peripheral arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To me, where I'm like, it doesn't.
Which is
none
funny.
of
That
those
makes
will
the
convince
best
me.
apologist to me, where I'm like, I'm not getting sidetracked by you. Like, I
Right.
have no desire to talk about those other things
Right.
because this is the
This
only
is
one
the only
that
one,
matters.
and this is the one. I'm like, if you want to, I'm all day listening to you deep diving into the resurrection of Jesus and us figuring out what you think of that. I'm here.
Right.
I'm here for it all day long.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I'm like, because that's the only one that really changes anything.
Yeah.
All the other ones, like, they don't, and for them, that doesn't, they want to argue theism, but the whole reality is, I think the reason we could feel good about, because theism is you stick in creation. That's whatever. Where did all this come from, right? That's not enough. You know, it's really the reality is who is God is the real challenge. Right. And because I think creation speaks to theism. I think Jesus speaks to eternity, truth, love, all those things.
Yeah.
Like where we're going to go at the end. So
There was actually that was a Pete Holmes thing. He says, like Christians believe that God created the universe and all living things, and then atheists will be living like they came from nothing. And they're like, okay, like then you ask them, what do you think happens when you die? Like, oh, nothing. They said, oh, that's interesting. So you return with your creator or something like that.
That's good.
you return to your creator.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So that leads into, I think, the second part of this.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way then to share your faith with someone of let's just say, an opposing religion, something that is staunchly different? So not like Catholicism. Oh, what did you
Yeah, I would
say?
say before you've done that, have you ever shared your faith with someone of an opposing faith? Let's
Yeah.
just start like somebody who's an atheist
Yeah.
or something, again, not a version of Christian, but we can play with what that is.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I've talked to some Mormons and J-dubs, at the heart of their teaching was different than classical Christianity.
Yeah.
But,
Absolutely.
but I met a bunch of them who,
Yeah.
claim to receive Jesus as their Savior. So
yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
that weird.
Yeah, Mormons, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Muslim. Yeah.
So what have you done in those scenarios, and what did you
I
find?
got right in
that
their
was
face.
I pushed them.
Yeah.
And
Said they're ugly?
What was beneficial? What wasn't beneficial? Maybe what were tactics that?
I think throughout time and for some reason in recovery, because my faith has definitely grown in that walk of life. And then most recently, because I'd be at a hookah lounge or something, and I have friends who are Muslim, and we'd end up talking, and it would be the most open, honest, frankly loving conversations that I've had. But I think it was because the place where I was at, and I was able to do that.
In a hookah lounge?
I was
that
able-
place?
Yeah, I was able to.
Because everybody's high as a kite.
High as a kite.
Just
It was a hoochah lounge.
it's weird because everybody's like, but I see God right now. He's right there.
So it was
The glowing man.
I was able to.
Why are there prospectors in the hookah lounge?
It was.
He's right here. Yeah.
So, what's interesting, it was never. It never got argumentative, and I really do. I'm grateful for that for both sides, for people who were
Absolutely.
talking,
Yeah.
and it really was because we're good friends. We're talking about a movie or a game, and then we start talking about deeper things, and I don't know why. It was kind of me just listening, just constant. And when in those situations, I always try my best to be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
awesome.
how can I be the most loving? And then it's like, if there are words that I should say here other than like just, me, just like listening and responding, if there's anything that's to evangelize to this person, like, Holy Spirit, give me the words. And not just based on what I know or what I've read or what I've learned. I do feel like the Spirit will give you specifically for this one
Absolutely.
person.
Yeah.
And actually, in one conversation, it was with my buddy Hussein. And shout out, buddy. I don't know if you're watching or not. But actually, I told him about the podcast months and months ago. But he moved to Saudi. He got into design. He ended up getting some severe things happening in his life that I won't speak about here that were not accepted in his culture. And so he came to America and just wanted to pursue his, I think it was an architectural engineering job. And he wanted to see what it was like to have experienced the freedom here. So we started talking about the freedoms that he's what freedom, like what's the freedom that you have here that I wouldn't have? I said, I think number one, us sitting here being able to talk about this in public, and
That's awesome.
walking away from here and then coming back and still being brothers and friends.
Yeah.
And I said, that's something that's innate in me as a Christian, and that's how Jesus wants me to love you. And it kind of shook him a little bit.
That's awesome.
That was it. It wasn't like hey buddy, I came to Jesus. It was just it had an impact on him, and
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to say those things. It's
Yeah,
cool.
I
a lot
think
of
you
it-
do that better than most, is that you don't have like set
An agenda.
things
Not
to
a
say. You don't have an
agenda.
agenda. I feel like anyone who speaks to you, whether you give a great answer or even off base with your answer, they leave feeling loved.
Oh.
Like they feel like Josh listened to me, like forget about what he said, he cared about me. That's the greatest witness you can have. You can win an argument and that person will never come to Christ.
Yeah.
You can lose an argument and that people
I led
will
more
run
people
to
to
Christ because
Christ
of your kindness.
before I knew anything.
How about-
Because all I knew was
Yeah.
the love I experienced, the forgiveness I had, and that they used that same love and forgiveness for people. That was it. So
Exactly.
I didn't have all they'd have all this stuff answered. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I had like nothing for them. Like, I don't know.
I have a friend that she says, we're not fighting to win the argument, we're fighting to win the relationship. And it's not about proving that you're right and someone else is wrong. It's proving to the person that you love them, regardless of whether or not you agree.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
perspective to have.
And I think so much of soul winning and especially discipleship comes from a place of relational equity that people forget that part. They leave out the relational equity. Now, I know there are occasions where you're going to run into somebody on the street, the Holy Spirit's going to prompt you to say something or do something, and you may be reaping the harvest that somebody else has planted and watered and all of that.
right.
But most of the time in my life, those conversations come from a deep place of relational equity. People know that you love them. They'll listen to just about anything that you say. And your life will be the greatest experience, the greatest testimony, and the greatest thing that you could ever say to them is the way that you live your life, the way that you love somebody, especially when they have a differing of opinion or even worship a different God. You love them anyway because it doesn't change the fact that they are who they are. They are an unclaimed son. They are a son that hasn't yet made their way to the adoption.
Yeah, it's an old Calvary Chapel line. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a lot of validity in that. I'm always intrigued because I feel that way. And then when I read Scripture, probably because it was so new of a concept, but like the vast majority of conversions that you see were not based in relationship. They were just based on truth.
Sure.
They were based on the kingdom of God is not about simply words, but of power.
And you're talking about a time period, though, where those people had seen Jesus walk the street.
That's what
They were,
and Jesus is brand new. So here,
And Paul would
people
go
have probably
argue-
heard of Christianity.
Right.
Paul
so-
would go and argue in the synagogues, but those were
Yeah.
his people.
Right,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? He's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
going to his own, and because I think it's funny, Ryan. That's where I went. So I went from when I first got saved. It was like it just testified. Then it was all truth. Then I just
Yeah.
went. It was all truth.
Right.
And then I realized I'm not arguing anybody into the kingdom. It was zero effective.
I can't remember. I heard somebody say that once, and I remember just being like, "Oh yeah, no one's won that way." Yeah.
Never seen it. And so then I went more to relationship and loving, and then I realized then it was all Holy Spirit, and I realized it's just a combination of a bunch of
It's
stuff.
a combo of all of it.
It really is, because you know what? Not knowing anything about what you believe is also stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like when people have just basic questions.
Unless you're brand new to it,
Right.
then you can't know.
But for us who've been around for a long time to never learn about.
I mean, Paul says that in the Bible.
Yeah,
like
right.
you're
Be
acting
prepared to
like
give an
kids with
answer.
milk. Like
Right.
you need to move on to meat, and like
Right.
you have to eventually grow in your faith.
Right. Be prepared to give an answer for anyone who asks of
Yeah.
you. So it was just more of a combination. So it started going to is I do want to know, for me, I want to make sure I know what I believe, because if I'm going to say this is true. Yeah. And then, of course, I think we're just being like Jesus. We should just go in to love people. I have no agenda. And then when they ask questions, I share what I know, and then I let the Holy Spirit lead me on how to. Sometimes I'll just be like, hey, here it is. Other times I'll be more inquisitive and like, I don't know, is this, am I never seeing you again? And God wants me to talk about it right now. Or is this somebody I'm going to see for the next 20 years and we're just walking this through? I think it's a combination of a bunch of things.
That's the John 13, love them as I've loved you, and it's that in the Blue Letter Bible is the agape love when he says they'll know your faith by your love.
It says lift Jesus up and he'll draw people to themselves. I will say that when I'm around people of a different faith, the moment they are always asking me God questions, I'm not telling them God answers.
Yep.
And I think that's the Jesus in us that's drawing them. Because I find myself all the time like when we're talking with people, like they're always bringing it up, and it's not like I'm bringing it up. And I think it's just more stoking that Holy Spirit in me, that loving kindness, basically the fruits of the Spirit, right? If you want people to see Jesus in you, just the fruits of the Spirit, gentleness, patience, kindness,
And honestly, love and joy draw everything. The love and joy, when Christians aren't joyful, when Christians don't have love, I'm always like, oh my gosh, how do you expect anyone to come to you with anything if you don't have that love and joy and peace? Those are like the main things in our...
When you said someone comes with God questions and you don't come with them back with them, God answers, and it's interesting. I actually always wondered as a kid why Jesus, when he spoke to the masses, he would speak a lot in parables. Yeah. And it would always be this imagery of, the flock or teacher, from a perspective of it would be inviting. It wouldn't be... Absolutely. Because of this, X, Y, and Z, and it's like, oh, well, I don't understand that, and now I don't want to be here. It's like I don't want to listen. So it's kind of that same way as like when we talk about having our connect groups. You can be deeper. You can be it's not that it's more honest. It is just more concise with the context of what the question is. But for the masses, when you're going out and you're talking to people out in the world, I think sticking to that love and kindness, and it's that agape love that you've been shown from God.
And also not defensive.
Yeah. Well,
if someone comes and craps all over Christianity, I'm like, that's okay. That's where they're at. That's where they're like, especially if they're an atheist. If they're like, that's stupid, and I'm like, I get it. Like,
and it doesn't hurt. Like, it doesn't hurt or scare me, or
fine.
Like I don't need to be defensive. Like God's more than big enough to defend Himself. Yeah. I don't need to stand up for Him all the time. There are things that I might say like, oh, I disagree with that, and here's why. But like, that's fine. Yeah. Like, we're still okay.
I think it's even, that's why we're given the Holy Spirit. If I'm in situations, let's say 2 different situations where someone's being loud and obnoxious and they're pointing, same thing. This person's being loud and obnoxious and pointing. The Holy Spirit I might feel compelled to say something in this situation. Right. And gentle and slow to anger in this one.
You can't beat the Holy Spirit moving in your life and having ears to hear.
I think you're more likely to react if you're defensive, and I think if you are literally just trying to be led by God, not worried about it, you'll defend.
And the thing is that God doesn't need you to defend Him.
Right.
My buddy JC says, truth never fears a challenge. And when you're confident in the truth of what you know, you don't have to get defensive of it.
Yeah. I think that's why I would encourage Christians to study and have a reason and have a response, because then you're not defensive. Yeah.
Right.
If I'm armed to the hilt, I'm not scared.
Sure.
Whereas if I don't know anything and I get challenged, it knocks me off my game. I'm scared. I respond inappropriately.
And then you get like your fear leads to frustration, leads to anger, and all of a sudden
anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
You're nice. Yeah. You're more frustrated at yourself, but it's coming out on somebody else.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I felt like some people wanted to start a fight, and I'm like, oh, it's not that I can't kick their ass. Like, you know what I mean? Like about this topic.
Hell damn and ass.
Oh,
swear.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
That's right. It's that's not what they need.
Right.
And if I'm not defensive, I can actually give them what they need. Like,
Right.
Sure.
I could, everybody
And
like
listening
to see
to
me
the Holy
squash them.
Spirit as
Yeah.
to what they need, because I
Yes.
may not know.
Right.
It really is
Yeah.
the biblical definition of meekness. It's strength under control.
Yeah.
And having that power, having that strength, having that ability, and being able to control it is what makes you extremely effective. I'm reading a book right now called Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster, and he goes through various spiritual disciplines: prayer, fasting, meditation, study. And I just finished the chapter on study last night, and he talked about this in great detail about how important it is for believers to have a solid foundation.
Yeah.
Biblical study and extra biblical study, things that are, classics. And he lists several books that I'm reading this book. I'm on chapter 4. I've already bought 3 new books, and I'll probably
That's
buy
awesome.
about 4 more.
Foster's
so,
great.
Yeah.
I was in
Foster's
Yosemite.
Freeze.
I was in
Foster
Foster's Freeze
Freeze.
once.
Delicious.
It's a great corn dog. I was in Yosemite. This is years and years ago, and we were at the Village, and there was a guy who walked by with a shirt that said "Ask me about Islam," and he was in a big group of guys, and I was like, man, I was a new pastor at the time, and I pulled him aside. A bunch of us got lunch, and I was like, hey, I'm asking you about your shirt. And he was like, oh my gosh. Like I was the first person who'd ever asked him, even though he was wearing a shirt that said ask him about Islam. And I was like, I know nothing. Tell me about it, which I feel that was an absolute lie. I knew a lot about Islam. And he just was sharing with me, was the nicest guy. We had an awesome conversation. Like 15, 20 minutes into it, I slipped up a little bit and I was like, well, doesn't like Surah 112 say? And he goes, what?
Wait
and I
a
go,
minute.
I heard, and then we started laughing, and I told him, I was like, I'm actually a pastor of a Christian church in town. And we had the best conversation, and it was so cool. It shifted because I had done a large study. I think it was through Evangelism Explosion or one of those that had a huge segment on Islam.
Right.
And they had taught me how horrible Islam is and how all Muslims hate you and
all
want to
those
kill you.
people are, yeah.
It was like, that's what it was. And so I was armed to the hilt with all this
Right.
Islam information. And then I met this guy and I was like, he's a wonderful guy.
Yeah, he was the sweetest guy.
He was so sweet
Yeah.
and loving. And we ended up just having a beautiful conversation. I asked him about Jesus because they believed Jesus was the greatest prophet ever. And
Just
so
not the last prophet.
Just not the last prophet. And
Right.
so we got to talking, and it really was this fun challenge of where I was challenging him, and I'm like, the Quran actually speaks to the Holy Scriptures and actually
Right.
says that the Holy Scriptures should be read. And I said, the problem is, it actually says that the Holy Scriptures have no falsities in them. And I said, so what do you do with all this?
Right.
It's contradicting itself.
So we had
Yeah.
we had a really good time, and I'm like, because he said, well, Jesus never claimed to be God, and I was like, oh, bro, like
Yeah.
multiple times, and and it was so fun to sit.
That's
He
awesome.
never got mad, I never got mad.
Yeah.
We had lunch together and and it was such a fun conversation, and I just thought that's what I'd love to see all the time with people.
That's
it's just
the
fun.
greatest challenge for me, like with Islam, several religions that point to Jesus as a great prophet. And I come back to the thing of Jesus is exactly who he said he was, or he was a lunatic.
Yeah, that's the C.S. Lewis line, and
Yeah.
there's nothing better. He
Yeah.
either was the Son of God or he's a raving
He's
lunatic.
on the
Yeah.
on the level of a man who considers himself a poached egg. That's
Yeah.
that's the finish.
That's
Is that the
a
Lewis quote?
madman. Yeah. The funny part
Mere
is
Christianity?
what we forget, and I think this is the part that is if you're defensive, your empathy is gone. And so, like when you're defensive, you're not empathetic. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times if you see the world as lost sheep, you have so much more. Even when they're coming at you
Yeah.
crazy, you're just like, yeah, but I got empathy for them. And the reality is, we're talking about the different. Maybe I'm wrong with this. Most of religious followers don't know what they're doing. Christians, Muslims,
you name it, across the board.
Mormons.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause
They don't-
if they actually read what their scriptures taught, and with Islam,
They don't have a solid foundation to their own belief system.
right? If you were to actually follow the Quran to the letter, you'd probably be more like, the more extremists because they're actually following what the Quran says. If you were a Mormon to the letter of law, you would be a polygamist, right? And if you followed Christianity and if you followed Judaism, you'd be more like a Hasidic or an Orthodox Jew. And if you followed Christianity, you'd be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
You would actually act like Jesus.
Yes.
And so so you're starting to meet people like they're fighting like, Christianity. I'm like, that's nothing like. Do you not see the Jesus part?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we're talking with people, whatever religious belief, they're nominally in. They believe on some level, but it's nominal understanding of what they're actually believing. If everybody actually got to the core of what they believed,
Yeah.
I think things would change. It's saying, maybe I'm not this.
Right.
Yeah, and
Or
it's
maybe I
odd
am
to
this.
me that we wouldn't do that on something as big as Christianity or religion in general. Let's be honest, like religion in general. You are saying that this belief system, whatever worldview you're holding, literally is the key to absolute truth.
It's going to structure my life.
And my eternity.
It's
And my
odd.
eternity.
It's odd that we don't go like, okay, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to do these
Right.
other things. I'm going to sit and comb through the scriptures and figure out, one, if this is even true, if I really do believe this or not, and two, what does it really say? Because if this is what I don't see a way around calling yourself a Christian and not saying I'm devoting my entire life to this. That's literally what a Christian is, little Christ, right? Like we are so you are doing that. So now it would be just, let's put in the time that it takes to honor what we've just said.
So wait, are we getting rid of our TVs? Is that what I just?
I only watch. I don't own a TV.
You just walk in the room and it was on.
You don't own a
watch.
TV.
I do not
That is
own one TV.
Perfectly
I do
said.
not.
Perfectly said.
That's good. I think that was great. That was fun.
Yeah.
Let's do
Let's
some
see who the
funny
biggest
ones.
addict is.
We have a. What do you
Well,
convince people?
I mean, we all know who it is. We all know who it is.
what do you
It's
convince
delicious.
people are pretending to enjoy?
You won't hate it.
Our cigar smoke?
Nobody pretends to enjoy that. I've always said it.
Coffee and
Black
beer.
licorice.
It's IPA.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love IPA.
I don't believe anyone likes
I
it.
don't believe anyone likes beer.
You know what's
I've
funny?
tasted it.
is
It's disgusting every
IPA
time.
is the epitome of beer. and
normally,
it's gross.
and that's true. And normally, you have to kind of like develop a taste for an IPA because
Like
it's
you would for
super
poop.
bitter, super hoppy.
take time to
You drink diet cherry colas.
it's so good.
It's so good, man.
It's amazing.
nectar of
Nobody's
the-
ever
I
drank
rarely
diet
drink
cherry
sodas,
cola and
but
said
I'll
gross.
drink a diet cherry soda.
You've never seen me drink a diet cherry soda? I say gross every time. So normally you have to develop a taste for an IPA.
Kale.
It comes from diving deeper and deeper. Stephanie does not like beer, but likes IPAs.
Well, Stephanie is a liar.
She's been
She's
forced.
super weird.
She has been forced to
believes
drink
it's-
IPAs
She
for
believes
a long
it's,
time.
She believes it's the nectar of the aliens.
Yeah, it's what it is.
that
Yeah.
could
That's
be
what she
it.
says.
She's actually just doing it to
If it was
like be
the-
close to you. It's a cry for
Anytime
help.
someone says, yeah,
"This is wonderful,"
how come only things like that you develop a taste for? What, like, why are we ever trying to develop a taste for something?
I've said this
when
forever.
Why wouldn't I just like the
Not
things that
in-
taste
yeah.
good?
Develop
Why do I
a
have to
taste-
I have
develop a
said
taste
that-
for it?
especially when
'cause
there's
you
no
misunderstand the
benefit
term.
whatsoever.
I was going to say, if there's benefit, that makes sense.
Especially coffee and beer. There's no benefit to those.
Oh, I
No.
will
I
argue
do.
coffee.
I'll
I will
argue
the
coffee
one.
and
So you
beer.
think everybody should drink coffee? Because
Yeah,
you're
it's
saying
good
there's a
for your
benefit
health.
to you.
No, some people
What
probably,
are you
probably some
talking
not good for
probably
you.
some
It's
people
full
can't
of
drink coffee because of
antioxidants.
caffeine.
Coffee is full of antioxidants.
Nobody in the world would argue that it's good
No.
for your
Oh,
health.
100%. Go read
No.
your medical journal. Hey, what's leaner, pork or chicken?
Oh
well,
my
you're
gosh.
right.
I'm right about this
It wasn't
too.
leaner.
It's not
It was-
leaner,
it
but
wasn't
it's,
leaner at
calorie
all.
count.
At that point,
Calorie count
just
is
go
in-
eat a carrot.
Hey, I'm pretending to enjoy
eat
this
a carrot.
conversation.
Touche, Josh. Well done.
My answer was kale.
Kale, you might be
I
right.
had it good once. Somebody grilled it. I guess they massaged it, and it
Actually-
tasted different.
I actually make so I mix it into scrambles, and I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic. But saying that, it's like you could do that with spinach.
Anything slathered
well,
in butter
well,
and
say-
spices.
I'm with you.
is
That
delicious.
it's one of those things where if you just basically manipulate the flavor out of it,
Yeah.
then you like
And
it.
the
There's
texture,
flavor?
Right.
because it's got a spine.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's
Spinach,
actually,
though-
yeah, raw.
Dude.
It's bad for you. I think like it hurts you.
Kale is more sturdy, so it holds up better in a scramble than spinach does to me. I think.
It absolutely does. But you're supposed to like.
Yeah, and you're eating
it up.
You're
Yeah,
eating
chop
that,
it up.
Yeah,
Steph-
you gotta massage it.
Steph does one kale salad with coconut aminos, or not coconut aminos, just aminos, and Bragg's aminos, and so it kind of breaks it down and makes
With an
it soft.
IPA. Sounds great.
Yeah, pours
Oh gosh.
summer
You gotta develop a taste for it.
summer fox.
Yeah, developing it.
Yeah.
Oh, Summer Fox.
I
Yeah,
had
that's
the-
the.
Yeah, I had their hazy.
citizens.
I had their hazy recently at Blaze. It was
I'm
great.
trying to think of something else that people are pretending to like. Besides coffee and beer, just go to.
Joe.
I know people really like coffee though.
No, the G wagon.
The G-Wagons are
Nobody
great.
likes the G-Wagon. That is
G-Wagon's
the
stupid.
stupidest looking. I
you pay
can't
so much money
figure
for
it
it.
out.
Wasn't that one of the vehicles you recommended that I should buy yesterday
Oh yeah, I
during
still
our
say it was
conversation?
stupid. It's got a droopy butt.
I got one.
It's
Do you ever?
So
do I.
Do you ever
No, I don't.
follow
I don't.
behind
Get
it?
You don't have a butt.
I don't have a butt.
Yeah.
No,
I think
get
every-
a Jeep.
every-
You could buy 7 Jeeps for 1 G-Wagon. And Jeeps look
4.5,
cooler.
yeah.
And
Way
Jeeps
better.
look cooler.
Way better.
I think we decided it's the H2.
every Marvel movie after Endgame.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, you're gonna have to lay out what those are. Are you saying Civil War wasn't good? Because Civil War was after.
That was
Endgame.
before Endgame.
Sure.
So
Are you saying
I'm-
chronologically or the way that they were released?
The way they're
Because those
released.
are different.
Yeah. You're talking to the comic geek about that?
He twitched. Did you
No,
see his
that's
eye
weird.
twitch?
Chronologically, they're different.
So
yeah, I know.
I
Name
am.
them. No,
Well, first of
Ragnarok
all, I
was
didn't
good.
say
I'm super.
Ragnarok was definitely after.
I'm
Endgame. It
super
was good.
entertained by all of them,
Yeah.
even when I know they're bad.
Yeah.
I genuinely am entertained with all
Just
of
so
them.
you know, just so you know,
Did you see Doctor Strange?
Terrible.
Even I saw
Did you
Dr.
see-
terrible.
You're going to watch
I'm with
stuff
you.
blow
No,
up.
I'm with
You're
you.
going to watch fight scenes. You're not watching this for a storyline or a plot.
Josh,
Oh,
I'm
gosh,
with you
this
on
guy.
this so much. I was just trying to find one that wasn't. Just so you know, like 90% of what you say, I agree with. I just don't know if it was everyone, but I would say 90%.
I
were
was even
terrible.
Almost all the ones
I
I
was
watched.
even entertained with the multiverse Kang
It's terrible.
with the Wasp.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Ant-Man and
No.
Wasp.
Oh, Ant-Man and
Ant-Man's
Wasp.
terrible.
There's a reason they've all
Horrible-
tanked.
Horrible movie, and I was totally entertained.
Every one of them have tanked in the box
What
office.
about was The Rock, the movie that The Rock did?
Black Adam? That's DC.
Yeah, it's DC.
Mister
DC.
was no
Listen, dude,
chronological.
I'm not. I was asking a question. Are you saying chronologically? Because I didn't know
And
That's
that.
by the
what's
way,
funny.
Same
they,
universe.
they screwed the pooch on that one because they removed Henry Cavill, and they alluded to him coming. By the way, if you've seen it,
Oh,
have
that's
fun.
right, yeah.
But the very last scene, he goes, "You've been stirring up a lot of trouble," or I haven't seen this much trouble since last time I came here," or something like that. And it was Henry Cavill as Superman, and now he's not Superman
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they
just
were gonna-
So
people are-
I'm with you.
I would say that
I think
Black
Ragnarok-
Adam was a terrible movie.
But it was
I'm still
entertaining.
entertained.
No.
Yeah.
I'm
I was-
really.
I
I
think
was
the
frustrated.
opening was like, "Oh, this is going to be
Amazing.
great."
Dude.
Right.
This is like
Amazing.
mummy level lore,
Agreed.
and then they're just like, bwank.
yeah,
the
I
kids
totally
riding the
agree.
First of all, any of the
Skateboard Kid was terrible.
any of the Ant-Man stuff, and there's a few of those in the Gen V, in Black Adam. Get big, get small. Special power is the stupidest power in the world.
It is not a
hate
great power.
that.
Oh,
power.
that's right. In Black Adam, there was one guy who had
gets big.
He gets big, and he
Yeah.
was the biggest doofus.
Yeah.
He was the comic foil.
He was the comic relief
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't that funny.
No, he wasn't.
I
don't even
You're
understand it.
right. There is something. The get small, especially, because I'm like,
What?
I'm going to get stepped on, and it's just going to end it.
In
But
like,
no, but you keep your strength.
Yeah, but like, what?
it's so dumb.
I don't even get that. I don't even get that concept. The way they talk about that. If you're this big, and it's like, but I
I
still,
think you keep your speed and your
I
strength.
still hit this hard, and it's like, no, you don't, because it's mass.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's also
impossible.
Because
Even
comic.
if you
I know,
do
but
it,
I
if you're
just
going to
so
go
dumb.
through
It's the
stuff, you're so
stupidest.
small, you're going to go through stuff.
Yeah,
I still
and
do
it's
think
the
it's lame,
worst.
but it's also they casted Paul Rudd.
I will
like that.
say,
I cannot-
Paul
Gen
Rudd did
V
it
does
well.
it pretty well.
Yeah, it does.
Just
And
from
we
that
should
one.
talk about
I
that.
haven't.
Just
I
that
haven't
one
seen it yet.
scene.
Yeah.
Dude.
I will say, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that only Ragnarok I can think of was even good after.
Ragnarok
that-
wasn't good. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that was good.
Wait,
That was the only good
did
one.
I see that one? Was that the one with Zeus and all
No,
that?
yes.
Yeah.
Thor fights Hulk in the opening.
Oh no, that's Taika Waititi's one.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that
Yes.
was
That was-
before
I'm sorry, what?
Endgame. I'm pretty sure that was before Endgame.
You
The
might
one
know better
was
than-
it
I don't know the
Russell
name
Crowe
of
that
any
played
of them.
Zeus?
Because that's when Thor met at the end of that movie. That's
Oh,
when
that was
Thor met
Love and
Guardians of the
Thunder.
Galaxy.
Love and Thunder.
That was Love and Thunder.
Thunder.
Yeah,
was Russell
at the
Crowe,
end
yeah.
he met Guardians of the Galaxy of Ragnarok.
Okay.
I'm
It
pretty
was
sure. So it was
that
before.
movie might be the best one. Out
Well,
of
because
all
Taika
of them.
Waititi's sense of humor, it was
Yes.
totally comic style.
guy.
I love
All right,
that.
back
I
on.
know. I saw it.
Back on. Is there anything that?
All you got to do is just take the lighter.
That's right.
It's true. It's true.
Is there anything else people are pretending to like that you just are like? There's no way. There's no way. people like
Yeah,
this.
Pete Davidson.
Pete, thank you.
interesting.
Great. I'm with you.
Oh.
I'm with you on him.
Bring it, Pete. Yeah.
I'm with you. I do not get him. We watched. I was telling this to Ryan. Ryan's like, "Oh, Pete does some funny things." I'm like, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
And here's the funny part: is Pete Davidson got off of social media, so he's not even famous because of that anymore.
He has made me laugh
He's on
before,
SNL a lot.
and there are still things that I think he has done that are funny. But as a whole, I can't figure out why he's famous.
Do you think he writes all his jokes?
No.
My thought is, how is he getting paid?
No.
He doesn't have movies, like, you know what I mean? Like, where is he making money from?
Well, he has some shows, and
He has
I
a
just
new
saw
show out
something
right
on
now.
SNL.
He
They
has a new
just
show.
released an episode that says, "I'm just Pete."
Okay.
It's like their new episode.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a funny sketch.
Is it?
It's their short. The SNL
No,
short.
Joe
that they
Joe
do.
didn't like it. He hasn't even
pretty
watched
funny.
it yet, but he doesn't like
I
it.
Yeah, but if you're doing an
Because,
episode,
because it's poking
watched-
fun at him. That's why
But-
it's kind of
Well,
if you're
yeah,
doing
his
that-
video about himself was funny.
Yeah, that's the one. No, I'm just.
Oh, is that the
yeah.
one?
That was one thing. I said that was one thing that was funny.
Yeah.
But not even great. I can't
yeah.
think of anything else. It was those are. I mean, obviously things like coconut and pumpkin spice are all just preference.
Mm-hmm.
But
How can coconut and pumpkin spice be preference, but IPA and coffee can't?
nobody said they're gonna. Nobody
Because
told
here's
somebody
you know
no
how?
coconut.
You know
it was
how?
an acquired
Because it's
taste.
an actual flavor.
People just
There
liked it.
are pumpkin spice IPAs. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds terrible.
Nobody
saying.
ever told you.
I don't like
try
pumpkin
that
spice.
pumpkin spice. It's an acquired taste. Just keep drinking it and you'll like it.
You know what? Maybe for a different culture.
I
Like
think
if you brought pumpkin spice latte to
I
a
think
different
acquired
culture that
taste might not
doesn't
be
have
the right
pumpkins.
word. You have to build up a
tolerance
a tolerance
to
to
the
the bitterness.
It's tolerance.
It is because
Is it
it's
a tolerance?
Both of those things
I think you're-
are insanely bitter, and I apparently hate bitter. I just
see,
hate
I
But
don't-
you like
I
cigars,
won't drink
which
bitter
is the
coffee.
strangest thing.
I won't drink coffee.
cigars
that's
are bitter.
to me.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said it with confidence. What do you want?
So I wonder if it's like cilantro, like it's a difference in taste buds.
Cilantro.
Yeah.
I love
So my
cilantro.
brother-in-law, who's a scientist, actually did tell me that
Is it?
there's a bitter gene type thing.
Yeah.
That
So grumpy people versus
yes,
not.
exactly.
That would mean
there
Ryan
are
would
people
like
who
coffee.
Yeah, but
'Cause he's grumpy.
Dude.
The rodeo
less
scenes
grumpy.
in Yellowstone. Lisa and I watched. I'm like, yay! It's another rodeo scene. Like,
The first
So
couple
part
are,
of me thinks Yellowstone in general.
no, it's so
the
good.
first
I
couple
haven't
of
watched
rodeo
one
scenes are
episode.
fun.
It's so
You
good.
should watch
Watch
the
the first
opening.
one. Watch the first one.
I keep hearing that
It
I'm gonna
escalates
love it.
real quick.
Real fast.
real
It's
fast.
The
like
opening scene.
it's like open range ranchers, and then they're
Mob.
like helicopter and riding with guns. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Why
It's
don't you just have a
it's a lot.
conversation?
Cowboy Mafia,
It's a lot
bro.
of cowboy mafia.
It is
It's
Cowboy
a lot of-
Mafia.
There's a lot of episodes, which means like it does seem like something that would be a fun night show, but like
Not for the kids.
no, like me out in the hot tub.
Oh,
his,
yeah.
on his
Classic-
non-TV.
I like the long series. That's
Yeah.
why like Rick and Morty break my heart because I'm like
They're so short.
one every 6 months comes up or something. I'm like, gosh.
I have
dang it.
I have a
So-
real question. We have a meeting at 1:00. You're welcome to be brought in on this. Are we gonna smoke a cigar in this meeting? Because I don't know if I'm gonna light another cigar.
This is good for
Yeah,
the
we
episode.
will sit outside.
This is
Okay.
good for the
Yeah, yeah.
episode.
It is.
What
It's
the-
good.
I mean,
I
we
don't
have
know
a
if I need to
meeting
light another cigar right
scheduled
now
at
because
1
we're still
o'clock.
talking.
What's the,
my other one was classic country music.
Oh, hey. Hey, man.
I mean, in Dire
Oof.
Straits. I feel like everybody's pretending like Dire Straits.
White guys
Beside-
that rap.
First of all, everyone is not pretending. One guy. One
No,
guy.
Not
One-
pretending.
no.
I will stand on that truth. It is great music.
No, a subculture. He's finding everybody who likes Dire Straits. Like, let me just show you a video about.
I
how
mean, it was
people like Dire
5.3
Straits.
thousand comments. And there's
All
likes
saying
on one
Dire
comment.
Straits
They
sunk.
said fire Dire Straits for the win.
No. Yeah, country music is. I actually went through a Garth Brooks phase.
But is that really? It's not classic. That's
no,
pop
no, no.
Classic country is like Conway Twitty,
Oh
Willie
my gosh.
Nelson.
Oh my gosh, horrible.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did anybody?
Johnny Cash.
Did you guys ask who all the classic country? I
is
didn't.
Johnny Cash
didn't.
classic
Chris
country?
Christopherson.
No, Johnny Cash is not classic.
Johnny
country.
Cash has absolutely
Get outta here.
superseded country.
Get out of here.
He is not. Nobody's listening to Johnny Cash saying, "I like
Shame
country."
on you guys.
I said it again. Get out of
Elvis?
here. No, I meant get
Did
out.
you say
Like, get out of
Elvis?
it.
You said Elvis.
Elvis sang country.
Elvis. No,
He totally
Elvis
sang
sang
country.
country. Elvis wasn't country.
Well, I'm
he
saying
was
he sang classic country. We're talking about classic
What?
country.
Yeah, and it bombed. Nobody liked it.
Yeah, they actually didn't like that. Those discs. Yeah.
Anyway,
Then he did Blue Hawaii. Or
what's
whatever that
another
was.
funny question before
Which is
we,
a great
before
song.
we all get in a fight about country?
Yeah. What if you can? Oh, this is a loaded question. If you could convince the world of one thing, what do
music?
you
Oh no,
think?
not that one. We talk about that.
Yeah. What reality show would you want to be on?
Oh yeah, I like this one. What reality show? I would have said when I was younger. I would have said Survivor.
Fear Factor. Oh,
I would have said
Do
Survivor.
I have the?
Fear Factor? No, strictly because of the eating
Yeah.
parts of Fear Factor.
Oh,
Do I have the? Do I have the
oh.
requisite skill set to be successful?
What?
Not necessarily win, but
We're
can I
saying you.
compete?
I don't know. What are you
reality
thinking?
show?
Like the challenge on MTV.
The Physical 100?
No.
What's the challenge? I don't know what that.
The challenge, it's a combination social, physical, There's eating usually one. There's like 24 people all in one house. They live pretty high end. It's a high end house. It's not like Survivor where you're having to eat rats and crap.
You've not seen Survivor.
I haven't watched Survivor since probably season.
It's not like Survivor
5.
where they cut each other's heads off.
We were just talking about Survivor.
Season 5.
I've never seen a full season. I've only seen random episodes and random pieces. I love that show a lot.
It's so good.
I've never really watched it.
I've never watched it all
think
the
I
way
want to.
because there's 100 seasons of it.
There are a lot.
And they bring
44,
people back.
44 seasons.
44?
They do 2 a year.
Yeah.
That's
So
still
they've
40
been on for
years.
2 decades.
Yeah, that's amazing.
What island were they on? Where were they?
I don't know. It's Fiji, maybe. I don't
Okay.
know.
Everywhere.
I was actually thinking like either Ultimate Fighter.
I was thinking Ultimate Fighter too.
Or one of the.
I just get pummeled.
Oh, I'd get
I
destroyed.
but I'd
That's
be
what I
on
mean.
the
Do you
show.
have the requisite
be-
skill
I
set
would
to
get
be.
destroyed.
No, what's funny
I'm-
is in my mind, I went
it's
to
hypothetical.
My mind went to American Idol. I can't sing.
Oh, that'd
but
be
I'd like to
great.
be on American Idol.
And
Wait a
people,
minute.
What's
So-
people would pretend to
Dancing with
enjoy it,
Stars?
Oh, yeah.
and so it gets voted up and voted up.
Yeah. What if?
Who was the guy that sang really bad guy that then released an album?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Shebang.
Shebang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot.
That
I
guy.
William
can't remember
Hung?
his name. Yes.
William Hung.
Is it William Hung?
That is it. Yeah.
William Hung.
Yeah, he recorded with like top artists.
If you had to go on America's Got Talent, you have to go and you have to audition, and it's part of the show. You're
That's a
not
great
one of the
question.
bad
I like it.
auditions. Like,
What are you doing?
You're on stage. What is the talent? I'm so mad that you exist.
Yeah.
What is the
Somebody's done
talent?
fun with Josh.
Like he friggin'
By the way, Josh, I want to answer Ryan's question. What would be your
what
reality
do you
show?
think?
Is it The Voice or American Idol? Which one?
Is it
Oh.
cigar in your teeth?
Wait, which show?
I don't know. The Voice,
is the
American Idol.
cigar still on his teeth?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, right on the front tooth.
On that?
Do that. So what's your reality show?
Yeah, you got
Oh,
it.
I
like
said
you were
either
missing
Ultimate
everything.
Fighter or I was going to do like Survivor Man or Man versus Wild.
I love that. That's
Oh,
what
Man
you
v.
want.
Wild would be great.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's what, the one guy who could sing is like not American Idol.
It is kind of upsetting.
Idiot.
I love Man versus
Naked
Wild.
and Afraid. Have you ever watched that show?
Yes,
would you
and
wanna
I
be
do
on
not
that?
want to be on that
I
show.
Dude, the
wouldn't wanna
one
be
thing,
on
the
it.
number
I don't wanna
one
be on it.
thing, it's like don't have clothes on to survive.
The only one of these shows, I'd only go on the ones that
Yeah, what
actually
do
have
you
a
got?
good prize.
Like what-
honestly,
like
if
what?
I'm gonna go do it.
Oh, what was the one?
American Idol. I mean, Survivor's $1 million.
What was the ultimate? What was the race where they?
Amazing
The
Race?
ultimate-
Amazing Race. Yeah,
so just
that
so you
would-
know, that's the one I was leaning towards.
I've had multiple people be
I
like,
forgot
dude,
about
you
that
and I
show.
should do
I
Amazing
actually
Race
thought
together.
I thought
would be
thinking,
fun.
me and Ryan should do it.
guys would be
That would
amazing.
be fun. Race.
I think it would be fun.
I think that we would have a blast doing that. That's the one I thought would be a lot of fun.
We'd be canceled.
I think.
gonna say,
yeah.
They couldn't record our conversations
Right.
because
Yeah.
we just talk like idiots half the time.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that would be a fun one. Hopper asked me to do that with him.
Oh my gosh.
That show
I would
seems-
watch that if you guys did that together.
We would just kill each other.
Oh my gosh.
That would be
I wonder at what point do Ryan and I kill each other. You're in a stressful situation at that point.
Yeah,
At
I
some
think
point,
Joe's dead by episode 4.
the stressful
some point.
Why
situation
didn't
part
Joe
would
get-
be weird.
Ryan killing.
That would be that would be the weird one.
Even if I was
Joe
the one
would
that
be
got
the one
mad.
driving, or no, you'd be driving, and then
That
you-
would be what the fight would be.
That
over.
would
They
be
would.
what the fight
You guys
was.
would.
Who's
You guys
driving?
would both die. You just all right, fine.
Yeah,
You just
This
drive
is
off
how
the
you wanna
road.
play it. You're right. Amazing Race actually would be a fun one.
That's probably the
That'd be a
top one.
blast.
And
There's
actually has good
there was
prizes,
a
it's
driving
fun.
show on.
Oh,
Dan Lohman was on it.
Goldberg.
The stunt driver show.
Goldberg did that.
Top Gear.
It was Goldberg. No,
Yeah.
it was a
Like a race across America or something.
No, not that one. That was the.
The stunt driving one.
It was the one where they each had their own car. They brought their own vehicle in.
Okay, no, that's not it.
And it lasted
Hinks?
no. It was 2 or 3 seasons, and they would set up obstacle courses. They did all these crazy things. One of them they would put skid plates under
No,
the
this
car.
is it. This one, but you don't bring your own car.
What's it called?
No, this one you did bring your own car.
This is the.
See, this
so
is when you start
so
killing
Dan
each
was
other.
on the identical show,
It's silly one.
and he's doing. They had to like roll a car. Like he was the stunt driver.
No
He was.
way.
Yeah, he was on the show.
Yeah, they
that
did.
would be fun.
They had like a dude with a Viper, but then a dude with a rice rocket. There was
Ooh.
another guy that brought his Lamborghini, and they beat this car to death. So this poor guy in his Lambo, they're literally doing rail slides. They had a single metal bar that you had to like jump on with your car and slide
the
it
guy
up.
who brought
Stupid.
yeah, I don't know. Are there any,
He
any
brought a
bikes
quarter
on
of
it?
$1 million
Were there
car.
any bikes
no,
on it or too
all
many stunts?
motorcycles.
Yeah.
And they would do stuff. It looked so fun, and it just looked like it would get your blood racing.
Oh, yeah.
They did one where they were all speed, and you had to drive through smaller and smaller corridors to where like one of them literally had like an inch on each side between your mirrors.
no.
So it was a sea container that you just. And so some guys would drive it slower to get through it. There were dudes that were just pedal to the metal, jumping through the it was
Chopping their
so
bumper off.
entertaining.
Oh, gosh.
Our family watched it. I think there were 2 or 3 seasons. We loved it.
That's amazing.
Okay, America's Got Talent. You got to be on stage.
What are you
You
doing,
got to do
guys?
it. What are you doing?
Floyd's drawing. I got this great cartoon. Hang on a second.
Oh, I remember seeing a sand.
No, let me finish it.
There was a lady who did a sand drawing one time.
She actually got pretty far.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually really.
It was on
emotional.
the projector.
Yeah.
Very good, actually.
It was really
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, boring.
What's your It was. What's your skill? What's
What are
your
we doing?
talent that you got in America?
Orating.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great if there was a preacher's competition?
I've always
do
thought
them,
about
though.
doing
That's
one.
a great idea.
Preaching competition would be amazing.
I couldn't figure out.
You got 5 minutes, like
But then
like a
it's-
TED talk.
I've wanted to do, and it was like.
But instead of votes, it's how many people came to Christ afterwards.
That's amazing, Josh.
Josh,
I just got canceled.
that's
That's
actually
amazing.
really funny.
So only non-believers in the audience.
Oh,
And they
that's
say, like,
actually funny.
That's your vote.
oh,
I
that's
think we could
great.
do it.
All right. So what do you got? You guys. Well,
We could do it in our church.
And
Well, do
Josh,
you have a skill?
You can't play an instrument or sing.
oh, that's fair. That's a good hand.
I would
That's
dance.
fair. Yeah.
I would
Okay.
dance.
You would
Yeah.
dance.
I was a really good dancer.
But like polka dance.
I can do the Russian dance where you get down on your
You can do that right now.
maybe.
He may not
Oh.
be able to walk tomorrow.
What about you?
I remember doing that when I was a kid. My knees would shatter
Can't do
today.
it. What would you do on?
Stand up.
You do stand
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
That would be all. That would be
did
all
not-
I could
that's
do.
a good
After
answer.
you
'cause I
stood
didn't know
up, what
what
would
I
you
was
do?
gonna
That would be it. I'd write a set, and I would just go for it.
I didn't think what I'd do. I'd
think
do
you'd do
stand up.
great.
I would do stand up too. That's
Have
the
you
only
tried
thing I
it?
think I could
Yeah.
pull off.
Have you tried it like locally at
Yeah.
the open
Yeah,
mics?
Yeah. It's.
Oh, you got to do it again.
I might. It's
That'd be
fun.
so fun.
It's fun. 2 minutes is very
Oh,
short.
That seems like a long time.
Way too short. So I'm a storyteller, and I like to build.
You have one story
and you
to
can't
tell.
do that in 2
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with. Honestly, it's the only thing I could even remotely try. I have no other discernible skill on a stage
Yeah.
other than speaking. And we
Yeah.
both. I'm a storyteller, so it'd be like it'd probably be stand up.
That's actually why. That's why I got into serious like woodworking and furniture making. Is because I was going to be a missionary, and I didn't want to go to the island I was going to, and my only skill was to talk to them. And I thought, like, God, I got to offer something more than
I
just
need
talking.
Now,
Like,
does anyone have
a
somewhere I
good
can
skill.
sleep?
yeah,
Yeah.
Let me build you a $400 cutting board.
that's It got it. I priced him out of the market pretty quick. But, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, how we looking on time?
What do we got? We got one more. We got one more fun or serious question. Whatever
Let's
you
see
want.
Here. Let's pull up a would you,
You get to
rather.
pick.
Dead air's great.
Yeah, no, this is good.
this is why you're here. For us to
There's
stop
nobody
talking.
still here.
That's true.
Would you rather be in prison for over 2 years or be swallowed by the whale?
Oh my gosh, the whale sounds so scary.
Yeah.
The whale terrifies me.
That's not
The
even
whale
close.
is- yeah.
It's prison.
It's
Uh,
prison.
like,
2 years
right?
in prison.
In basically, are you saying would I rather be in an environment I can at least be somewhat familiar with, or trapped in a thing where I don't know if I'm going to die?
Joe is familiar with Joe.
or absolutely
Yeah.
terrified.
Yeah.
Dark,
And not just dark.
Ugh.
It is pitch
pitch
black.
black.
Am I in
And you're
Gen Pop or am I in
gross.
solitaire?
Gross things floating around you.
I mean, you're in Gen.
Not 2 years. Oh, jail's even. Yeah, jail's not even prison.
Yeah.
Jail.
No,
Yeah.
like general population. Like you're actually.
Oh, prison.
Yeah, he was asking if you're in solitary or if you're actually in general population.
Yeah. So if we're talking prison, I mean prison's rough.
And by the way,
prison's not-
solitary is only like 24 to 48 hours.
yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty short.
Yeah. Gen Pop, you could die too, by the way.
Very-
Just being
very
honest.
easily.
Yeah,
that's
but
a
you're not getting
possibility.
swallowed by an animal.
Especially with my
I'm still taking my
stupid
chances in
attitude.
prison. I'm still taking my chances in prison, but being swallowed by a whale is.
Oh, I know. My
I probably will
stupid
die.
sarcasm
I'll
is going to get me
I'll
How'd you
probably-
get beat up today?
I'll say-
My stupid attitude.
I'm going to get shanked at some point. for
I'll probably
cracking
die
a
in
joke.
prison, but it'll be better than being swallowed by a whale.
I kind of agree. Even if you're guaranteed survival from the whale, I'm never the
I was going to
same.
say, biblically,
I'm
I mean,
a
he was
s-
released.
I don't think
I
you're
mean,
the
I'm
same
never
when
the
you come out
same.
of prison either.
I'm a small
How
guy.
long was he in the whale?
I mean, I know a lot of people that went to prison and they're doing a great. They're having a great
fine.
time. They're fine.
They're
It
fine.
wasn't even that bad.
I'm a small old guy in prison, which is a bad combo, and I'm also the kind of guy that, trained that when you go to prison, you just whoever says anything to you, pick a fight with them. So then I pick a fight,
Yeah, and
get
you
my
get
ass kicked,
destroyed.
and then they shank me to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like day one.
And I like it because in the movies, it's like, well, I respect him because he took a
No.
swing at the strong guy. Nobody respects
No.
you. Nobody's like, oh, great job. They're like, this idiot, they just beat
There
you
is
up
there
every
is
day.
a hierarchy, though.
They're going to prove a point.
Because there's
every
9
day.
guys, and they're beating the crap out of you.
Uh-huh.
Yep. No.
That's why I'm like, I'm going to try and be the nicest guy.
I would sing.
I'm going to be funny to
I
people.
would sing in my
You
cell.
should sing.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
It's very
the
attractive and
jokes.
interesting.
I just said
jokes.
Hold on.
There's a lot going on.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on You Won't Hate It. I am Josh.
I'm Ryan.
Floyd.
I'm Joe.